Hello, and welcome to Back Through the Lens, where two film school friends talk about movies through the haze of nostalgia, the good, the bad, and the ones that aren't quite how we remember them. I'm your host, Rachel, and with me is my co-host, Joe. Today's movie is The Mummy.
Stunts, combat, mystery, curses, and buried treasure are just some of the elements that can be a part of a fun and thrilling summer adventure film. These films bring us on quests to exotic locations as we chase the big villain in an attempt to thwart their evil plans.
Yeah, so I love this movie, and there's also way too much to talk about. So if it's okay with you, we should just get right into it.
Yeah, I try not to read ahead, but I did skim through, and it seems like you, dare I say, unearthed a lot of information here. So let's dig in, I guess. And
Oh my God,
done
a
with
twofer.
I'm done with my puns. I'm sorry.
Jesus. Okay. Wow.
Strap in, everybody.
Today's movie is The Mummy, directed by Stephen Sommers, released May 7th, 1999, rated PG-13, based on the 1932 film The Mummy.
Librarian Evelyn is obsessed with ancient Egypt, while her brother, Jonathan, is obsessed with finding treasure. Jonathan brings back a map from his last adventure to the hidden city of Hamunaptra, which is believed to have a treasure buried there. Also buried there is Imhotep, a cursed priest that's been waiting 3,000 years to seek his revenge. To help them get there, they hire Rick O'Connell, who has been to the mythical city before. Besides the treasure, they also find a juicy mummy, mad-eating bugs, and the Book of the Dead, which you should totally not read out loud.
I don't know if I saw this when it came out in theaters, but I know I saw it close to when it came out, at least a rental. But I remember watching it like all the time. If it was on TV, I would rent it with my friends. My brother and I both would watch it a lot. He has the DVD set of the trilogy, and sometimes I would just like borrow it from him for months and we'd like go back and forth. Like,
Nice.
who knows who really owns this box set of the Mummy movies? But I hadn't seen it for maybe a couple years, but I'm definitely more familiar with this one than a lot of the other movies we've rewatched recently.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in the same boat over here. I don't recall if I saw it in theaters or not. I want to say I did. That could be a false memory because I think I saw the second one in theaters because of the fandom of this movie. I know I owned it, and I don't know, can't think of why I loved it so much. It was really fun, obviously. But yeah, I think, as with what you said, out of the movies, at least as far as this season goes, I'm probably most familiar with this one. This was, out of all the 10 movies we're discussing, this is probably my most rewatched one.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say for me too. Okay, there is a lot of background into getting this made. So come with me on a very long journey. We start in the late 1980s. Two producers, James Jacks and Sean Daniel, decided they wanted to update The Mummy, the 1932 Universal monster movie starring Boris Karloff. Universal was like, yep, that's fine. Why don't we redo some monster movies, but you have to keep the budget at 10 million, which is not going to go very far.
It's like they wanted to keep it like an old school, cheap horror flick.
Yeah, I couldn't help thinking the same thing when I first read this. Like, I wasn't really sure what they were thinking. And not to jump too far ahead, but just so people can maybe understand how much things cost. When Stephen Sommers, our actual director, enters the picture, he was like, I'm probably going to need 15 to 20 million for special effects alone. So this was really an extremely low budget, especially for, well, depending on what kind of movie you wanted to end up with. We'll say that. Yes. So in 1987, George Romero, Night of the Living Dead, George Romero, wrote a treatment and was set to direct this new version of The Mummy. A screenwriter named Abby Bernstein gave an interview saying that she was working with him on this screenplay that would have been his version of The Mummy. They kept calling it a Terminator type mummy, like a Terminator type character, that it just had one goal, would just plow through anything that was in its way, kind of unstoppable, single-minded focus. Wasn't necessarily here to kill everyone, but if you got in the way of its mission, like, it would just plow through you.
Okay.
The characterization she explained was that it had no more social interaction than the T Rex did in Jurassic Park. It wasn't like a person you could interact with.
Okay. Hmm.
So I guess in their version, some scientists somehow accidentally bring a mummy to life. And I want to say maybe it was this one. There's a couple of versions where they take the mummy to a lab to do scans and like the MRI brings it to life somehow. It's, you just sometimes you go with it. But this version of the mummy, it wanted to find an ancient device that would destroy all life on Earth. This was its singular goal. And I remember them all saying it was pretty dark, which, like, it's Romero, so, like,
Yeah.
zombie-esque. But somehow Universal wasn't really going for it. Romero just kind of gave up trying to make revisions, and he left the project. So our producers, James Jackson, Sean Daniel, brought in Clive Barker from Hellraiser to direct. Mick
Okay.
Garris wrote the screenplay for this version. You might remember Mick Garris as being a producer on Hocus Pocus.
Why does that name sound familiar? Okay, there we go.
In the Hocus Pocus episode, we had talked about a lot of the producers and people working behind the scenes having like legit horror movie bona fides. And then they
Hmm.
did this silly kind of family Halloween movie. So Rick Garris was one of those guys. He also has a podcast where he like talks about horror movies and especially tells stories about horror movies he's worked on. So he was brought in to write this version that Clive Barker was going to direct. Something about an Egyptian tomb being rebuilt in Beverly Hills, and something happened. It was like an art museum in Beverly Hills and something was going to happen and, mummy
Mummy
run
stuff.
amok. Yeah,
Yeah.
mummy stuff.
Hmm.
Clive Barker was quoted as saying this version ended up being too weird for the studio. There was something that they kept bringing up with, we set it in the land of plastic surgery and facelifts, and you're going to have that mirrored with like they're rebuilding an ancient tomb to house this mummy they found that they're going to display. And I don't know. Both of these versions did sound a little darker, more violent. So walk away again. Alan Ormsby, screenwriter for Porky's 2. This is the biggest credit I could find for him
Oh
at this
God,
point in his career.
it haunts us, and its
It haunts
children haunt us.
He did work with Bob Clark pretty
No.
often. So
Okay.
Bob Clark, director of Porky's. He had also worked on some of Bob Clark's earlier like horror movies that I think we've met, the Christmas one we mentioned,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there
It's
was
kind of
another one. So Ellen Ormsby pitched a version that was more a straightforward update to the 1932 Boris Karloff movie. Joe Dante was attached to direct it. Joe
nice.
Dante, who did Gremlins. Okay. It started falling apart because Joe Dante wanted the budget increased, not because of special effects or anything like that. It was because he wanted to hire Daniel Day-Lewis to play the mummy.
Huh. That is a choice. I mean, I
Hmm.
love Daniel Day-Lewis. Feel like I would not be utilizing him very well.
To be fair, like, who knows if the mummy had more to do in this version than like what the end version was. But yeah, could
Sure.
you imagine paying the money for Daniel Day-Lewis for him to just walk around silently and like glare at you?
Yeah.
Yeah. They brought in John Sayles to rewrite the script. At this point, he had written horror movies like Piranha and The Howling. He also wrote Night Skies, which was going to be Steven Spielberg's sequel to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. We have discussed this in the past because elements from Night Skies got broken up to make E.T., Gremlins, and Poltergeist.
Poltergeist. Yeah.
Some of his additions did make it into the final product that we know. The flesh-eating scarabs, the love story, elements of reincarnation. However, In going back and looking at the 1932 movie, I did not realize how similar these plot points were to that movie. Because in the Boris Karloff movie, he is a priest named Imhotep. He regenerates. He's trying to find his lost princess, like the love of his life. That's his whole point in being here. For all these versions they've gone through, they really did end up just remaking the 1932 one in terms of the basic storyline.
Yeah.
But like, you went through all these people and all these
Yeah.
scripts just to kind of end up with what you had before.
Well, I could I could picture very briefly in my head all these different versions, but they're very at the core basic and generic. I can see a more shuffling, creepy, let's call them zombie-esque for Romero, obviously. The Clive Barker
Mhm.
one, especially taking place in LA and they're mirroring plastic surgery. When I start thinking of people cutting into their face and Clive Barker, of course I think of Hellraiser. And what
Yeah.
would that look like? Some sort of dark and like dressed in black chic mummy eating people? I don't know. And
Yeah.
then I don't know if I can picture one with Daniel Day-Lewis, but
I did want to point out one thing about reincarnation because in doing all this research, I found an interview with the woman who played the love interest in the original Boris Karloff movie.
nice.
That woman was something. She really did believe in reincarnation. She was an extremely serious actress. She was more of a stage actress. She was really like not thrilled about doing this monster movie. I think she was under contract to do one movie for Universal. So they were like, here, do this and like get it over with.
Hmm.
But no, she had filmed all these scenes where she is reincarnated through the ages, apparently. And it was things like she was a Christian martyr who was eaten by lions. She was a princess during the Middle Ages. And like they brought in real lions for
Oh
that
my.
particular scene. And they filmed that one last in case like she got injured. They'd be like, we already have all the footage of her, which feels very
Oh.
like old Hollywood, right? Like, well, if she gets eaten by this lion, at least we have all this other footage. But I was curious because I looked into possibly watching the 1932 one before we recorded this. I did not have time. It was only an hour long, like a little more than an hour. So I was like, they really packed all this stuff into this movie? No, they cut all the reincarnation scenes.
That's
So
fair.
she went through
Okay.
like all this stuff for like nothing. But
For
she
nothing.
literally she just talked to the interviewer about all of her past lives and how she has psychic powers and like visited a Hindu temple and levitated. And I was like, well, this woman sounds very interesting.
She's like a real life mummy
I was
or
just
adjacent.
very adjacent. Yeah, I was like, it's weird because you sound like the exact right fit for a movie like this, but you apparently really thought you were too good for this. So I don't know. She just, I was getting like Norma Desmond vibes, I guess, the way she would talk about how serious she took her acting career. But then also she was like, did you know I can levitate?
Yeah, maybe she didn't want to do the movie because it was too close to home. And she's like, oh, they know my secrets.
I don't think she was keeping the secrets.
Well, I don't know when this interview was, but
I want to say it was like the 70s or 80s. She apparently was living in this a very old house. They called it pre-Revolutionary War, like in New England. And she's like, oh yeah, I lived here before in my past life when it was more of a modern house. And it's like, of course you did.
I lived here in my past life when it was a modern house.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So anyway, moving on. 1994, we are back to George Romero.
Yes.
The screenplay, I guess, is still the same screenplay that Alan Ormsby and John Sayles worked on that we had just discussed. They had a female archaeologist named, depending on the source, Helen Grover or Helen Grosvenor, which Grosvenor is the name of the female lead character in the original movie. So, like, we're getting even closer together here. She discovers Imhotep's tomb. He's an Egyptian general in this one. Oh, this is the one where he's awakened by the rays from an MRI scan. She falls for him while having flashbacks that she's a reincarnated priestess from ancient Egypt.
Okay. Why are they giving a mummy an MRI?
They're one of these versions, I think they were doing it more to be like, what can we find out? Almost like, when they would like x-ray the mummies before they unwrap them to be like, let's see what we're dealing with and not like hurt the very old dead body.
Yeah,
Some
I
of it
guess.
was that. Some of it was one version they were trying to regenerate nerves because they thought this could be a breakthrough for like disabled people or something.
Okay.
That was one of the screenplays.
I guess my question stems from that typically, I mean, you can get MRIs on other parts of the body, but it sounds like if it woke the mummy up, they did a brain MRI.
Mhm.
But if it's a mummy, didn't the brain get removed?
Yes, actually. It doesn't
It
have
probably
to
doesn't
be a
matter.
perfect science. Yeah.
That doesn't have to be perfect size when you're MRIing mummies. No, not at all.
All these people are reincarnated. Like,
Oh, that's
you
right.
just have to go with some things here. So, this again was considered too dark, too violent by the studio. There was also an element in this one where Imhotep resurrects a slave, I guess, who served him in ancient Egypt. And this resurrected, like, slave mummy attacks everyone who raided their tomb, the modern day explorers. And that was, like, supposedly extremely violent and gory. And on top of the studio not really loving this version, Romero was in a contract with MGM at the time and couldn't really get out of it. He wasn't allowed to work on like another movie for another studio at the same time. So again, leaving this version, 1995, Mick Garris, our friend from Hocus Pocus, is back for another screenplay. Combined elements from the original movie and The Mummy's Tomb from 1942, which I'm not really familiar with that one.
No.
His was a period piece, and up until now, all of these versions had been set in modern times. For some reason, the studio was really adamant it had to be set in modern times. Like, that was the only way to update The Mummy, was to make all of it modern.
I can see the train of thought there where if you're going to do it to get new audiences, I guess, make it more modern, but it just seems so weird. I don't know.
Yeah, I sort of understand the thinking that if you're going to remake this movie, remake it for now, for these times. Like, I do sort of understand the thought process there. I felt like they were boxing themselves in with it had to be a certain budget, it has to be this setting, all these elements that were making it really hard to get it made anyway.
Yeah.
Like, write us a script, but you still have all these things you have to keep in mind.
And I guess I'm also wondering why they're saying it's too dark and too much horror. I mean, I haven't read the scripts, but I guess the point I'm making is we're trying to kind of rejuvenate a 30s monster movie. Like, isn't it supposed to be kind of scary?
Yeah, I was wondering about that too. I wonder if they felt like some of these things would veer into more genre horror, like the Romero version, and it wouldn't appeal to a broader audience. But then we will also see with our version that finally got greenlit, they told Stephen Sommers he had to keep it PG-13. And I think that was part of their, I'm assuming for a wide appeal,
Oh,
they
yeah.
wanted PG-13. So I think that probably was part of the discussion for all these past iterations too.
Okay. Makes sense.
Okay, so this 1995 version that Mick Garris wrote, they had offered it to Wes Craven to direct. Wes Craven turned it down. So they're just back to the drawing board because Universal still is like, budget's too high, everything's too dark, too violent, and it has to be in modern times. 1996, Universal hired Kevin Jarre. So he wrote the screenplays for Glory and Tombstone. So we already had
Oh,
some
nice.
hits under his belt. Yeah. There was also a changeover in the leadership at Universal at this time, which I didn't get too much into, but Universal was now convinced that they should give this a higher budget and that also a period piece sounded okay.
Okay. All right. They're coming around.
Yeah. Stephen Sommers, who becomes our actual director here, He had always wanted to make a mummy movie because he loved the Universal monster movies as a kid, particularly the mummy one. He basically heard through the grapevine that they finally were at a point where they didn't have a director. Like he had kind of been following this whole back and forth where, oh, Universal's making a mummy movie. That's my dream project. But there was always a director attached or that they were going after. So he's like, no director. I'm going to shoot my shot. He called the producers in 1997 with his vision, and he called it a kind of Indiana Jones or Jason and the Argonauts with the mummy as the creature giving the hero a hard time.
Yeah.
At this point, I feel like maybe his major titles under his belt were The Adventures of Huck Finn in 1992 with Elijah Wood. Also, the 1994 live action version of The Jungle Book, which I remember watching as a kid.
I know I watched the Huck Finn movie. I feel like I watched Jungle Book 94 version.
I remember this Jungle Book version, someone like drowns in quicksand, and I
Oh,
remember it scared my little brother. Like, that's all I remember about it. It was
interesting.
too dark, too violent.
Rated R,
Um,
the Jungle Book.
but I guess because he had done a live action version of the Jungle Book that was fairly successful, they were like, okay, maybe you could do this other movie because he had already brought this existing story into a different version and it did well.
Right. And at this point,
So,
it's just like throw the dice at the wall and see what you get.
yeah, I'm actually surprised they like went with this for so long. It
Yeah. It's been like 15 years.
yeah, I feel like so number one, I was surprised, they kept trying, but also maybe it was these two producers kept pushing it along. So they're like, no, we swear this is a good idea. And they were kind of chipping away at this while working on other projects. Who knows? But then also all these opinions from the studio, I feel like, at least from what we have seen, the studio opinions never work out.
No.
Like they always have the wrong opinion, at least in all the movies we have talked about.
Yes, kids don't like Halloween movies. Women don't like movies at all. Et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera.
Stephen Sommers also had really good timing. Not only did he kind of slot himself in there when they were between directors, Universal also was coming off some pretty big box office failures. And they were like, we need to do something drastic to turn things around. We need a hit movie. Apparently, one of their big failures at this time was the sequel to Babe, Babe
There
Pig
was
in
a
the City.
oh, okay, yep, I remember that
Yeah.
now.
That's the only one I found that was actually like named. And it's funny because I read it at first and I'm like, I thought Babe was a hit. And then I realized I was looking at the sequel. So
Mm,
Pig in the City.
Pig in the City.
But yes. So for some reason, the new leadership at Universal was like, the only way out of this is to revisit past franchises and like reboot them.
Of course.
Um, so they had sent out like lists of all the characters and stories that they owned. And obviously part of that is the Universal Monster movies. But they were like, literally, no one can do anything original. We need a hit. Existing IP is the only way to do it.
That's
I
sad.
mean, I know it did work out well for this particular situation. But yeah, Summers was, like I said, very serious about this because he loved the original movie. But as I said, he pitched it as a romantic adventure horror movie. He also incorporated his own research into ancient Egypt, and he hired an archaeology professor from UCLA to make the ancient Egyptian language accurate. And this was just for him to pitch the script.
That's awesome.
They also changed the name of the lead female character to Evelyn Carnahan. This was a tribute to the real life Lady Evelyn Herbert. She is the daughter of Egyptologist George Herbert, Earl of Carnarvon. They were the original explorers that found King Tut's tomb.
Oh, okay.
But so her dad being the Earl of Carnarvon. That's such a weird name. But anyway, that's how they got Carnahan for Evelyn's character's last name. I also found out in my research that this is going to be interesting to maybe only a tiny niche, group of people. Evelyn Herbert was born in Highclere Castle because that was part of the estate for the Earl of Carnarvon. Highclere Castle is where they filmed Downton Abbey. So she
Oh,
was
nice.
actually like born in the real like Downton Abbey home.
Okay.
Um, nice little bit of trivia I picked up. So Universal liked this treatment. They liked that it took place in the 1920s instead of modern times. So we're really changing our opinions now. Something about the 1920s being like the heyday, so to speak, of all these ancient Egyptian discoveries. It's like they found King Tut's tomb in 1922. Summers said, one of the first things I told the studio was nobody wants to see a guy wrapped in bandages. They're going to laugh at it. The producers said the studio wants to do it for 15 million. And he said, I'm going to need that for visual effects alone. So they
Yeah.
finally agreed to up the budget. And I think maybe they felt like their backs were against the wall because of their recent box office failures anyway. But whatever reason, they were like, okay, everyone's been right this whole time. We're going to change all of our opinions. Go make this movie.
Well, didn't two of the studio producers or heads or something change recently too at this point?
Yeah, there was a changeover too. So that was part of it. But I believe they increased the budget to like 60 million,
Ooh,
which when they started this, they were like, you can only have 10 million.
right.
So that brings us to casting. Like we're finally good. We're finally greenlit. The role of Rick O'Connell was offered to Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, and Ben Affleck.
Yeah, I feel like that's all fine, honestly. I mean, I like what we get, but I can see these working based on the non-horror version of this movie.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I wasn't sure what I thought about any of these being slotted in instead, but it just makes sense for the time. Like these were the big names.
Hmm.
James Jacks, one of our producers, he and our director, Stephen Sommers, were impressed with Brendan Fraser in George of the Jungle, partially impressed with how much money George of the Jungle made, but also they felt like he was such a watchable presence in that movie while also obviously playing like a very silly character that could have been very one note and
Yeah,
just like laughable. And I guess he was already making a name for himself because he had that Dudley Do-Right movie already made. It hadn't been released yet, but he was considered very bankable and they kind of envisioned him when they were thinking of the character. There were quotes about them saying he reminded them a little bit of Errol Flynn, like a swashbuckling kind of character. Errol
okay,
Flynn,
yeah.
if you're not familiar, did a lot of like pirate movies in the 30s, like old Robin Hood. The studio was really pushing for an American actress to play Evelyn. I could not find really any other info about that other than Rachel Weisz auditioned multiple times and was really pushing for it. And it's like they never really seriously considered anyone else. They just kept being like, oh, but it should be American.
And
And
no
I think that's
reason
why she
why.
kept coming in. Yeah, I think they probably felt they needed someone more bankable. They were obviously very spooked by their like financial prospects at this point. But
Okay, I see. Yeah, makes
yeah.
sense.
Rachel Weisz said that she was attracted to doing The Mummy because she just thought it would be fun. There was another quote I found where she said she wasn't really thinking of it as a horror movie, more like a kind of fun comic book type movie, is how she put it. I think basically like a fun action adventure movie, not so much a horror movie. But then she said that she kind of got more than she bargained for because then once she was filming it, she said she had big sores on her butt from camel riding lessons. And then she was very concerned about the film's comedic tightrope walk.
Hmm. She thought
Yes.
it was too funny.
I think they were worried about what kind of tone the movie was going to be overall because people were like, it's horror, but it's still funny, and it's scary, but it's still fun, and it's silly, but scary. And there were a lot of quotes I found where the actors were kind of like, we didn't really know what kind of movie we were making. Like, because they would do multiple takes of the dialogue with like different tones and even just saying totally different dialogue in case the
Mm.
scene was going to be serious or funny or scary. So they were like, hope this all works out in the end.
I'd like to see the different cuts of this. If they if they did these shots and takes differently, is there a scarier version of this movie? Is there a straight up comedy version of this movie? I wonder.
I wonder.
Where's the Jon Stewart cut?
I
Who
know.
knows?
Could you imagine how serious it would have been if Daniel Day-Lewis had been involved?
Oh, there's no laughing.
No, no laughing allowed. I included this tidbit just for you because both Rachel
Uh-oh.
Weisz and Stephen Sommers said that Evelyn's funny moments in particular come from how earnest her character is.
Yes. She's very earnest.
She is. And I was watching some of it back after I did this research, and I think that really comes across in her earlier scenes, like before they get to the dig site, especially on the boat. She is extremely earnest. And it's like, they're not wrong. It comes across as funny because of how serious she is, not because she's trying to be funny.
Yes, I would agree.
Brendan Fraser said about Rachel Weisz, she's just a heck of a lot of fun to work with and easily someone you can have a platonic movie star crush on for all the right reasons. To translate that to a chemistry that plays on screen.
Easy enough.
John Hannah, who plays Jonathan, Evelyn's brother, he apparently had, quote, no idea why we cast him because he kept insisting he was not funny. He didn't know how to be funny. He didn't understand what he was doing here.
Wow.
Yes. And I guess Stephen Sommers kept telling him, like, just do your bits in the background. You're kind of like comic relief. And then he's like, well, no, because the Benny character is comic relief and the Warden character is comic relief. So then what am I? And apparently the entire movie, he was just like, this is horrible. I don't know, like, what they thought putting me in here. I'm like, this is going to mess up my career because I don't know what I'm
Hmm.
doing. He talked a lot in interviews about how he had to work his way through all these anxieties, quote, about whether I could suspend my own disbelief about facing up to a 3,000-year-old mummy. Steve Sommers, the director, helped by suggesting it was no different than Hamlet facing up to his father's ghost.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
This is not the only Shakespeare reference we're going to have here. So, James Jacks, one of our producers, he had previously worked with Arnold Vosloo, who ended up playing the mummy Imhotep, on a movie called Hard Target, which was a Jean-Claude Van Damme action movie. He remembered Arnold Vosloo thought he would look right for the role, just like a tough guy, like a bigger guy. So he pitched this to Arnold Vosloo, like, come in and audition for the mummy. Arnold Vosloo is South African. He was back in South Africa. He had apparently thought his time in Hollywood was done. Like, he had done the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, like maybe a few other action movies, but he was actually a Shakespearean stage actor. He was formally trained.
Hmm.
And yes.
Was he ever
So he
Hamlet?
that I don't know.
Hmm.
But he was like, I'm probably gonna go back to my like quieter life in South Africa and just do stage work. But then he got pitched to be brought in for the mummy, and he was kind of like, what are you all thinking? Like, what is this? Still, he was like, I'll do it, I'll come in. But he said once they offered him the role, he would only do it if he could play the role, quote, absolutely straight. From Imhotep's point of view, this is a skewed version of Romeo and Juliet.
And there it is.
Yep. I don't think he was wrong, though. Like, he saw this as kind of back to what they were referring to as the Terminator kind of version of this mummy character. He has a single goal, and that's to bring his, one true love back from the dead. He doesn't care who gets in his way. He's just going to keep moving forward and make that happen. And to him, as a character, this isn't so much about, I'm going to come back to life and like fuck things up for all of you. Like, I'm here to bring her back. And that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And damn you if you get in my way.
Exactly. So once he was, set to play Imhotep, he learned ancient Egyptian working with an Egyptologist from UC Santa Barbara. Apparently, he just kind of learned to read it and say it like phonetically, just like enough for the movie. And he did a lot of research on the lives of ancient Egyptian priests. He called their lives incredibly disciplined and narrow, which I guess I could see. But there were also stories of him like having to do phone meetings at weird times if they changed the script, because then he would have to learn different lines of ancient Egyptian. So he would have these phone meetings with the UC Santa Barbara Egyptologist and be like, okay, this is what I need to know how to say now. And it could be like 3 a.m. California time because they were filming in Morocco.
Hope he paid these professors. That's a
Yeah,
headache at 3 o'clock in the morning.
I was going to say, like, I'm sure none of these people, when they decided to become, experts in this sort of field, were like, I'm going to one day be on call to teach a random actor lines of ancient Egyptian, like on call, like a medical doctor.
Yeah, don't think they saw that in their future, I guess.
Arnold Vosloo has also talked a lot in interviews about how he was horrified to discover that his costume for the movie is what he called dental floss G string costume. I was a little surprised at this because I feel like I didn't remember him just wearing a G string. He kind of has some robes on for most of the movie,
Yeah.
but he talks a lot about how he was like, oh my God, I have to like lose weight for this role because I'm going to wear nothing. Someone else was like, oh no, we have a fat mummy. And I was like, well, that was mean. someone at the fitting for his G string.
That's
So
that's all those Americans he kept eating.
he basically said he just stopped drinking beer leading up to the movie and like that did it. So good for him. Also, I just feel like he was more clothed throughout the movie than this was making it sound like. So
Yeah, I think that was his undergarment, obviously, but I feel like most of the time he just had this big cloak on.
yeah, that's all I could think of. However, I also read that the actress who plays Moon, his love interest, she was like basically nude except for like body paint. She had
Hmm.
pasties covering her chest and then I guess also her own G string. I don't really know. I didn't clock that at first. And then when I watched it back, I was like, oh, they're kind of correct, actually.
Yeah, you don't see anything the way it's
Yeah.
shot, but you can tell she's not wearing clothes.
Well, I also think like some of these, I don't know if robes is the right word. They both wear more fabric than what it makes it sound like, but all that fabric for the most part is see through. So I feel like in some ways they look more clothed than they actually are.
Yeah, Emotep's cloak thing, and most of the time it's just like it looks like a robe. He's like barely even wearing it. I feel like I'm more dressed up wearing an actual robe. Like he has like off his shoulders, and you can see his chest and everything. He's like just kind of letting everything in the air in the breeze. It's there, but it's not really.
Hmm.
He's like wearing a very loose snuggie.
Okay. That's, I haven't thought about Snuggies in a while. Okay. So filming began May 4th, 1998 in Marrakesh, Morocco. They had wanted to film in Egypt, but everything I read said there was political unrest, so they could not film there for safety reasons. It worked out well for them because Morocco was already less modern looking, so they didn't have to do as much work to make it look like the 1920s. They ended up building a set out in the Sahara Desert to be Hamunaptra, like the outside of Hamunaptra, and then they filmed the interiors at sound stages in Shepperton Studios in England. So Summers was told by the studio that it had to be a PG-13 rating, like this was the condition of them greenlighting the movie. Summers said it could be scary, not gross, funny, not campy. And this is like the line he was trying to walk the whole time. And I think this is why some of the actors were getting a little concerned and confused sometimes because they were like, it's a horror movie, but this line is silly and there's like funny characters, but also like the mummy's legitimately gross. Like, I don't know. I can kind of see how without seeing the final project and you're shooting it bit by bit, you wouldn't necessarily see the vision of how it was all going to come together.
Right. Yeah, it happens sometimes, and you just have to trust the process, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Stephen Sommers talked about how, he loved the original Mummy movie. It really scared him as a kid, but he knew that that wasn't going to be enough to scare more modern audiences. He was also like, to be fair, I was like 8 when I saw it and I thought it was terrifying. But then he was like, how do you make a modern movie scary while making sure it's not strictly a horror movie and not having all this blood and gore that would get an R rating? So he has a quote: how much blood can you spew, and how much is appropriate in what is, at heart, a romantic adventure movie? I think the great boo scares are ones that make people jump or scream, but they're generally not graphic. To me, the scariest thing in Jaws is the girl getting nailed by the shark at the beginning, and you don't see a thing. So we've decided to be clever, and hopefully we will be.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. Sometimes less is more. If you leave it up
Mhm.
to our own imagination and our own vices inside our heads, we're picturing something that's worse than we're actually seeing.
Yeah, exactly. While they were filming, they were dealing with temperatures as high as 132 degrees.
They are in a desert. Yep, that sucks.
Yes. Sandstorms were constant. Apparently, they were so brutal that they would strip the paint off of their trailers.
Damn.
Yeah. They were all given handouts about like various snakes they should look out for.
God.
I know. Brendan Fraser gave an interview where he was talking about there was some snake in particular that they were like, memorize what this looks like. If you see it and it bites you, you will probably have a limb amputated.
Oh my God.
Brendan Fraser gave this interview where he was specifically talking about this snake they were supposed to look out for. And, they'd gotten flyers and pictures that were like, it's this particular snake with yellow dots or something. And if you're bitten by it, the best you can hope for is that your limb is amputated. Like, that's the only thing they could like do for you to stop you from dying potentially. So they were constantly supposed to be aware of their surroundings while also, acting. But yeah, he talked about this one time that he went to relieve himself between takes, and that particular snake was like right at his feet. And he just bolted because he was like, oh my God, this is it. Like, what do I do? Apparently just ran away, but it worked out. So,
Can you like demand more money in your contract if you have to shoot in 132 degrees, poisonous snakes, and I don't know, sand power washing the paint off of buildings?
yeah, like hazard pay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Funny you mentioned that because they also had to take out kidnapping insurance on everyone.
Excellent.
Apparently, no one knew about this until after filming that the producers really had taken out these insurance policies on everyone. And to be fair, there's always like insurance involved on film sets in case of, injuries and problems. But this was kidnapping insurance in
Huh.
particular. The actor who played Benny, he was like, did you really take out a policy on everyone? Because he wasn't like one of the bigger names in the movie. And the producer, James Jacks, was like, yeah, everyone. And he goes, well, okay, like how much did you take out on me then? He's like, oh, like 50,000. He was like, okay.
I should have kidnapped myself.
Yeah. So once we're all done, we're testing it. Audiences were reacting very poorly to the title because they apparently went in expecting an old horror film like, the original Mummy, which I was a little bit surprised at because, like, how many times have we remade Frankenstein at this point? Or,
Dracula.
you know, exactly, like classic monsters that they try to update the story for a more modern movie. It's like, I don't know. I didn't think it was that weird necessarily that it was going to be called The Mummy. And actually, at this time too, they had already done some, not necessarily Universal, but there had been some higher profile remakes with like Robert De Niro was in a Frankenstein movie that had come out. Jack Nicholson did, was it Howl, the werewolf movie?
Wolf. Gary Oldman did a Dracula movie.
Yes. So that was actually one of the reasons why Arnold Vosloo didn't think he was going to get the part of the Mummy, because there had been this string of monster movies with big name actors. And he's like, they're going to get like Robert De Niro to play the Mummy, not me.
They almost had Daniel Day. Come on
I,
now.
I know. The domestic marketing president of Universal at the time decided they should just keep the Mummy title. And they said, we would redefine the myth with this film rather than change the title, which is funny because, like, again, usually the studios get things wrong and they jump to change something like that. So I'm surprised. But that all being said, enthusiasm for the movie was really low, which is kind of sad because
Yeah.
they had so much riding on this and they were like, we cannot have another box office failure. Stephen Sommers said, the studios always do tests and nobody had any interest in seeing a Mummy movie, we were finding out. I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? Arnold
Oops.
Vosloo, he said when he went back to South Africa after filming, his friends were all like, why the fuck did you do a Mummy movie? No one thought this was going to go well. I really love the after the fact market research. No one wants to see a Mummy movie. Oh, shoot. They were also saying the only way to, make money back from their flops was to redo existing
That's right.
IP. So it's like, not only are you sending out the list of all the things you own the rights for, maybe you should do a little market research on what people are interested in seeing.
You would think.
However, Universal took out an ad spot during the Super Bowl, cost them about 1.6 million. I believe it was Independence Day, we said, that started this trend of advertising big summer movies during the Super Bowl. Stephen Sommers said it immediately reversed the discussion of the film's prospects. The ad just got so many people excited about the movie. He said, then people saw our 30-second Super Bowl spot. It went from nobody wanting to see the Mummy to the next day the studio was on fire. We thought, man, this film could do 20 million. That would have been a pretty big opening. Spoiler alert, they had a $45 million opening weekend.
Nice.
So in addition to this, though, the producers were getting concerned because The Phantom Menace was coming out the same weekend as The Mummy.
Uh-oh.
So they moved The Mummy's release date to May 7th. It originally was going to be May 21st, but this way they felt they could be out a few weeks without competing with The Phantom Menace, which is probably smart.
Yeah, I would say so.
All right. So that very long story brings us to our movie. We open with this flashback to ancient Egypt. We are,
As you do.
as you do, we are very quickly introduced to the pharaoh, Imhotep, and Anck-su-namun.
Yeah. It has been a while since I've seen this. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier when we talked about our first views. And I felt the same as I did the first time I watched it. I forgot that Imhotep is a priest
Mm-hmm.
because the narrator says something about, in ancient times and blah, blah, blah. And he sets up, we're 2,000 years ago or something like that. And he says Pharaoh and this Pharaoh's men and whatever. But like we see, unless I miss something going from screen to screen while typing, we see Imhotep. I was like, oh, yeah, he's a pharaoh. That makes sense. He gets mummified and he curses people. I'm like, oh, wait, he's the priest of the pharaoh. Okay.
There's a very quick shot of the pharaoh, like when they say
Yeah.
pharaoh, but he also
Okay.
has a head covering on, so it's hard to see his face.
Hmm.
So like I could see, especially if you're looking down writing something, you would miss it.
Yeah, I remember seeing him. He was like riding a chariot looking thing,
Yes.
but
Hmm.
then they just cut to Imhotep and it just stays there. He's just like looking at the moon or something, kind of majestic like, and his presence is there. But then I remembered, oh, yeah, he takes the mistress of the pharaoh to become his own mistress. I don't think they were king and queen.
They did call her a mistress, yeah. So that was weird. Because, yeah, the only things we know about her is like mistress of the pharaoh. No other man was allowed to touch her. That's it. That's her whole character.
But then someone did.
Yeah. So hard that he messed up her body paint.
Well, if you're completely covered in body paint, you can't be. I wouldn't can't
It's
touch you at all.
impossible.
Like,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? Like, he did
So I
like caress her, and the camera zoomed in. I'm like, oh, he's
yep.
gonna notice.
I always thought it was weird that I guess not everyone is painted, but like a lot of them are painted because the priests are painted, she's painted.
Yeah, it's weird.
I'm just wondering, I mean, I guess if nothing else, we needed a way for the pharaoh to realize someone else had touched her, right? But I was just always wondering how they came up with this. Is this something people did? Why are they all gold?
They love gold. They love treasure, I guess.
So yes, because Imhotep smudges the design on her arm, Pharaoh realizes she, I don't know, is two timing him, whatever. Um, I don't think I ever paid so much attention to the why of this whole thing, this whole beginning part of like why the curse has happened, how it happens. It's just like, yeah, he's cursed in the mummy. But now that I was like watching it really closely and taking notes, I was like, wait a minute. They mummify them alive? Like they're going to pull out their organs while they're alive? And he has this whole team of like lower priests that are being mummified with him. And I was like, this is brutal. Don't they pull your brain out through your nose?
Yeah, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I feel like the term, being mummified alive only gets you so far. I feel like it's you start being alive and you're quickly not alive.
Yes. Except that Emotep maybe is like kept alive because of the curse to like experience everything.
Well, I don't think he did the full mummification process. I think they bandaged him up. They removed some organs, I guess, because they later come and play with the jars. So that doesn't make
Right.
sense. But I don't think they removed his brain, or I don't even think they focused on that. I don't think it was the way we learned about mummification in like fifth or sixth grade. They basically kept him alive though, so he could be eaten very slowly by those bugs.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was getting confused at because we find out later, he obviously did lose his organs because he's like trying to get organs back.
Right.
Um, and, he's looking for the jars. And my little, you know, fifth grade obsessed with Egyptology self knows a thing or two about mummification at this
Yeah.
point. I also wrote down that the details of his curse, he is undead for all eternity, but he would arise a walking disease. And I said, wait, why would he be so strong if he was ever resurrected? This seems like kind of a backwards curse. Like he'd actually gain a lot from it if anyone ever woke him up.
Yeah, I feel like this is generically kind of the problem with any of these mummy movies. I feel,
Sure.
even though I haven't seen all 300 of them or whatever existed in the 30s and 50s, but it's like, all right, this guy was bad and we put him away. But if you wake him up, oh no, he'll have his revenge. It's like, maybe just like cut off his head and throw him in the Nile. I don't know. Like, why?
Well, right. So, yes, like the curse was, or the beginning part of the curse, whatever, the mummifying alive, he's going to suffer for eternity. I understand that in terms
Sure.
of like Pharaoh getting his revenge, right? But
Yeah.
then, yeah, the other side of it is like, well, then it's going to be everyone else's problem if you ever open his tomb or whatever. And so, how is that, you know, taking out revenge on the actual guy you're mad at?
I think
Because now you're
maybe,
just going to end humanity, apparently.
well, this guy's gone anyways. What does he care?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, it's been a while.
But maybe, let's say if this was me and I, smudge some gold paint on a mistress or whatever, and they did this to me, that's it. Like, someone can't bring me back to life. I'm not this head priest. Like, this guy knows a thing or two about resurrection and afterlife, and I'm just
Mm,
Joe Schmo. Like, oh, kill this guy. He ain't coming back to life. This guy knows a thing or two about it. He's a high priest.
hmm.
That's the only thing I can think of. Because the other priests, the ones, covered in gold, they come back because of Emotep. He brings them back, but there's no curse with them because maybe they don't have enough of the knowledge and power that Emotep has.
Yeah.
I don't
Mm.
know. It
You
is
know,
weird. It's like you kill the guy, you curse him forever, but if he wakes up, he curses everybody else. It's like, well, wait a minute. what do you? Well, it's and in their defense, they did bury them and give warning signs not to unbury them. They were kind of doing
Yeah.
their due diligence.
Yeah, and I also feel like they did not explain in the beginning exactly how many steps would be necessary to bring him back from the dead. It's not like you just opened his coffin and then, because, you gotta read from the book.
Yeah,
A lot of
there
things have
are
to
some
happen.
steps. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's 1999. So like 15-year-old Joe.
Mhm.
Yeah, none of this was clocked. I was like, okay, we got to set up bad guy, mummy, curse, tomb. We know it's going to get opened. Otherwise, there's no movie. Roll credits. Let's
Yeah,
go.
I think I only ever paid attention to, like, the idea that there's this love triangle is not the right word, but these, like, 2 people who are in love who can't be together, and he's in trouble now because she belongs to the pharaoh, and then if he's ever resurrected, he's just gonna try to go find his love, but even that's not really brought up in the beginning anyway, so it's fine, whatever. It's fine. Um, obviously, neither of us have really thought too much about this, and now that we have, we're like, wait a minute."
Hey, wait a minute. Yeah.
So we have our setup to the story. We leave ancient Egypt. We get our just a title card saying the mummy.
Yeah. At first, it was okay. Then it started to have motion and it just looked like Armageddon to me. It's started, there's like a whole sandstorm happening. We go from past to modern times, well, modern being the 20s, but where the film
Yeah.
is set. And so like it's swirling around and it starts picking up the letters that spell the mummy. And I'm like, you could have just had the mummy and I would have been happy because like the image behind it was like what his tomb or sarcophagus or something. It's just like a very just gold outline with the name,
Yeah.
and then and sandstorm, and yeah, I was like, oh, you almost had me. You almost had me, but you lost me.
Yeah. I don't know how well some of these effects held up, I guess. This title card in particular was the worst.
It was the worst.
But I've always thought that it didn't look good. Like, even when I was younger, because I understand it's probably supposed to be a sandstorm or sand blowing away. I always thought it looked like leaves being blown in the wind. And I was always like, why would they do that? Like, why does that, like, that has nothing to do with ancient Egypt or any of this. And then I'm like, oh, no, it's just bad. It just looks
Yeah,
bad.
but it's like 1993 font graphics and
Yeah.
effects, and this is the same year The Matrix comes out.
So I didn't add like too much about the special effects, but I know Industrial Light and Magic did the effects, and Steven Sommers was very adamant that he wanted computer generated effects, partially because he thought, having a guy wrapped in bandages was going to like look too cheesy for like 1999, which I understand. But also they wanted that ability to show the stages of the mummy regenerating, which in that case I get. You can only work with what you have at the time, right? Like, we've seen plenty of movies like Poltergeist that maybe not everything holds up. But then, like you said, this is the same year The Matrix came out. So, like, I don't know.
Yeah, there's well, as we get through the movie, we'll talk more about when they come up. But there are things I think still look good in this movie. Some things that still look fine. And then
Sure. Yeah.
I have to think this is from 1999, so I'm looking at it different eyes. And some things that I thought maybe, like this title, never really looked that great. So they have like 3 tiers, and I'm fine with that.
They have tears. And for some reason, the title card's at the very bottom.
You're gonna cut some corners, I guess cut it there.
This is also when we're introduced to the Magi, the Pharaoh's bodyguards who keep watch over the cursed mummies. I wanted to point out that our head Magi, who the character's never actually given a name, so hopefully everyone listening knows who I'm talking about. But in the credits, his name is Ardeth Bay, and I did a double take when I saw this because in the original 1932 movie of the mummy regenerates himself and kind of lives amongst society for a few years before attempting to, figure out who his reincarnated like love of his life is. And the name he goes by when he's trying to be a part of society is Ardith Bay.
Hmm.
The only difference is that Ardith Bay, the Magi character, the last name is spelled Bay. In the original movie, it's Bey. But I have to assume that's on, like, giving him this name is on purpose, like, because that's such a weird name.
Yeah. I never realized until this watch, or if I did realize it, it didn't matter, I guess, that he has no name. It's just like the Magi leader, the guy with the
I,
goatee, the long hair dude. I don't like.
mhm. No, yeah, I thought that's what he would have been credited as, like, had Magi. Because if you're looking at the just the credits, or you're looking at like a cast list, you're like, well, who's Ardith Bay?
Right.
Because no one calls him that ever.
No. And some of
So
these other characters do have generic titles. There's just Warden, Egyptologist. It's something else. I mean, there's some just like names that are just one word. It's a noun, and that's it.
now and then the baby was just credited as baby.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, so no, it happens. But we are now, like you said, in the 1920s. Rick is, I read that Rick is supposed to be a French legionnaire. I guess his uniform suggests this. I don't know. They're some sort of army trying to get
Hmm.
land. I don't know.
I feel like is he supposed to be French? I think he's
No,
American.
he is not. He's supposed to be an American who is a part
Okay.
of the French Legion.
I thought he was just helping them.
Well, yeah, now he's just like a hired gun at that
Okay.
point. But yeah, because even like Benny's in more of a formal uniform at this point. I don't know what we're doing, but we're fighting. We happen to be in Hamunaptra, unbeknownst to like everyone else. Or maybe they know they're in Hamunaptra, that they don't know really what that means. But I, again, like, I think the dialogue in this movie is so great when they're facing, is it the Magi at this point? No, they're facing a different army that's like coming at them. And Benny says to Rick, your strength gives me strength. And then he runs away and shuts himself in the temple. And I totally forgot about him shutting Rick out of the temple. That they have this, like, I don't know if rivalry is the right word, but they're enemies like from the very beginning because he keeps screwing him over.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
he's running towards like, don't you shut that door, Benny. He shuts
Yep.
it anyway.
Yep.
He's a little weasel, but he's a fun
He
weasel.
is. Yeah. I wrote second Brendan Fraser movie in a row.
Sorta. Yeah.
Sorta.
I
Yeah.
mean, he made an uncredited cameo in the last one.
It is the second time I have seen him in a row.
When I hear that term, I think like they have a bigger
Like
role.
he's the, yeah, I get that. So everyone runs away. I assume they're somehow spooked by, I don't know, whatever is under the sand. Rick's back is up against the wall, like literally. And then all of a sudden everyone's gone. And we see the sand moving, and Rick doesn't understand what's going on. And he's hearing voices saying that he's going to die,
Hmm.
which, like, that's intense.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I don't think I would ever be going back there, no matter how much money people paid me. Like, a voice in the wind told me I was going to die.
It's weird at first because we don't see the face in the sand. We just see like sand spraying up, like
Yeah.
kind of randomly around him, and he kind of runs away. And the camera slowly tilts to an aerial shot, and we see this sand face.
Yeah. And then I was like, so this guy was mummified alive, and he can still kind of, I don't know, make threatening sand faces. Like when someone disturbs him, I appreciate like the creep factor. I think I
Yeah,
just need to like not think about it too much.
yeah. Because now I'm thinking maybe it's not him that is the sand in the face. Maybe it's the curse, and because the idea is to not wake him up. So I think if I was the
Right.
one controlling the sand with my face, I'd be like, "Hey, man, come on in. The water's fine. I've been had a long nap. Wake me up. Use a coffee."
If I was the one controlling the sand
I'm
with
just
my
saying, maybe
face.
it's the curse that the pharaoh put on them to like scare people away, so they don't wake up this monster. It doesn't seem that way because
I
the guy looks like Imhotep.
right, and we see Imhotep doing more like sand face stuff later. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's yeah. I'm just gonna go with it. That's fine. Um,
He's going about it all wrong.
well, and then to your point, we see the giant sand face, and then the Magi is like the creature remains undiscovered. And I'm like, there was a giant face in the sand.
Yeah.
So okay. Um, anyway, nice old school wipe 2, 3 years later.
Hmm.
I don't think I realized how many wipes are in this movie. It definitely gives it like, I don't know if campy is the right word exactly, but it lightens the mood. It's very old school. And also, it always makes me think of Star Wars when I see a wipe transition.
Yes, Star Wars. In this particular case, because of the setting and, the digging up stuff, it makes you think of Indiana Jones. A lot of this movie makes you think of Indiana Jones, but they use the
Well,
wipes like
yeah.
that.
Hmm.
I feel like
Yeah.
also because of that's maybe it's the setting and they're trying to keep it old school too.
So, this is how we're introduced to Evelyn. However, I'm sort of like taking umbrage now with this introduction because she's so smart and accomplished. And like, obviously, we're supposed to think she's more book smart than like street smart, I guess, like, you know, opposite to Rick. But her intro is her putting a library book away very stupidly and then falling over. She's on a ladder falls over because she like reaches too far over and she knocks down all these enormous bookcases in this ancient library. And I just feel like, I don't know, this is like not the characterization we get of Evelyn at any other time.
Mm, I think it slowly dissipates. This is the most extreme version.
Hmm.
And as we go on, I wouldn't call her clumsy exactly, but there's elements of that where she and Jonathan too, they kind of accidentally do things and either fail or succeed because of their accident. And as the movie goes on, they're more purposeful, I think. But this introduction is the most extreme version of her just kind of like floundering.
There is a point where, well, we learn her background because her boss comes in and yells at her, and she's like, "Oh, you keep me around because I know ancient Egyptian and, I know all these things." I don't think it's this scene exactly. It might be later with Rick that she says her dad was a famous explorer. And then I think in this scene, she tells her boss, or her boss tells her that he keeps her around because her parents were like really important patrons of their work.
Yeah.
So originally, the character of Evelyn was going to be the real life daughter of that real life British earl that found the tomb of King Tut.
Okay.
But then they decided to like keep the name Evelyn but make her fictional. But so some of that is like left over from lines that she had that would have made that more clear.
Okay. It still works. You don't need to know about her parents. Just the guy makes a point that they were very important, and that's one of the reasons she stays around,
Hmm.
besides the fact that she is really good at Egypt stuff.
Yeah, well, and I think it also explains too why she's so knowledgeable because she like literally grew up with all this.
Right.
And also so did Jonathan. He just went a different direction with it, I guess.
Yeah, but it still shows that he knows some of it, whether it's subconscious or not, because there's some things he has to lean on her for, but he
Yes.
still has more of a base knowledge than I think a normal person who didn't grow up with these kind of parents would.
Yeah. Yeah.
This library is destroyed, and this caretaker comes in and just like goes off on her and compares her to plagues and curses and how they were all of those would be better than having her around. It's pretty
Poor
brutal.
Evelyn. I know. Yeah, and at one point he says sons of the pharaohs instead of like
Right.
something any normal person would say. We're then introduced to Jonathan because he scares her by crawling into a sarcophagus and like popping a corpse out of it, which I always thought was so gross.
Pretty gross. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And just also, him. we understand they're two different characters. Like she took this academic route. He kind of uses all his knowledge of ancient Egypt to like find treasure or personal gain, whatever.
Hmm.
But it's always so crazy to me how brazen, I guess, people were with these literal dead bodies that they would find.
Yeah.
Because like we said, even in real life, they were just tearing up the mummies and using them as firewood. And it's like, why would you do that?
Why would you lay there next to him and touch him?
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Why any of this? But so Jonathan brings her, I guess we can call it a box for lack of a better word right now, but he
Hmm.
found this supposedly on a dig. It's a little box that opens up to contain a map to Hamunaptra, the city of the dead, where the earliest pharaohs were said to hide their wealth. They take it to her boss, and he's like, "You're stupid. This is a myth, whatever." He accidentally catches the map on fire. It took me a few years to realize that her boss burnt this map on purpose.
That's kind of funny. Maybe my first watch, I didn't notice. It's all new. I mean, he doesn't really play it off very well. He's like, whoops. Just the way like, he's not really trying too hard to hide it. But I guess they're not noticing because their map to this ancient city that may or may not exist is now on fire. So they're more concerned. He's like, oh, how did that happen? I'm such a klutz.
Yeah, I think it's after it's on fire and he drops it. He's like, "Oh well, such is life,"
Yeah.
and that's more of a giveaway. This is when we cut to Jonathan and Evelyn finding Rick in prison. I think Jonathan suggests they go talk to Rick. Is that how they get here?
Yeah, because that box he didn't find on the dig, he stole it from Rick.
Okay, yeah, because this is when we get the line where Evelyn's like, "I can't believe you lied to me," and Jonathan says, "I lie to everybody. What makes you so special?"
Yep.
I wrote that Rick is definitely giving George of the Jungle vibes when they visit him in prison. But when we first see him, his hair is like really long and scraggly, and he's been in prison. He's like a mess. Also, I recently watched George of the Jungle with my son. So
There
to me, I was like, oh, he just
you
like went
go.
from one movie to the other. The warden is so funny when Evelyn is trying to convince him to let Rick go. Like, Rick gives them maybe, like, a little bit of information, and then he's like, "If you want to know everything else, like, save me from being hanged," basically. She's trying to reason with the warden, and she's like, "I'll give you £100 to save his life." And the warden's like, "I would pay £100 just to see him hanged." And then they say something about a last request or last words, and Rick's like, "Yeah, let me go." And the one guard that's stringing him up is like, "Oh, like, is that something we do?" And the warden's like, "No, of course we don't let him go."
Yeah. Uh, yeah, the guy who plays the warden's pretty funny. Obviously, we talked about that Benny and the warden are kind of comic relief. Which is
Mhm.
actually, I feel weird saying because there's a lot of funny moments from other characters too.
Yeah.
But I would say the warden is, and maybe Benny are often like the butt of jokes
'Cause they're not presented as, like, the smartest
or the
characters, so
cleanest or
yes.
it's in this scene alone where he's being hanged. They're negotiating how much of the treasure that he can take. And, they're trying to meet somewhere in the middle as negotiations go. And at the very end, he goes under which he had just offered. And she's like, Dio's like, ah, then he realized what he's just done. He's like, God damn it, cut him loose. Funny enough, though, we have seen this actor before. Almid Julili. He was a slave trader in Gladiator.
Yeah, so I think I know who you're talking about. Because I remember the one slave trader character in Gladiator being kind of funny, like, he was sort of light a lighter character in, like, this very dark storyline. I would not have clocked it as the same person, so, again, you're very good at your game. I had 2 points, one that he reminded me of Jake Johnson, kind of, from New Girl.
Hmm. A little bit, I guess. Yeah, I can
No?
kind of see
Okay.
it.
Mhm.
I'm going to trust you.
In doing research for this, apparently Jake Johnson is in the Mummy remake with Tom Cruise, so that was kinda funny to
That
discover.
is funny.
Omen, our actor here, gave an interview where he said that he got the part because he came into the audition telling them that they had at most a one-dimensional Arab character and he would like to improvise enough to make it less stereotypical. And he's like, maybe I can get you to like 2 dimensions.
Hmm.
But like that impressed them enough that they basically called him back after the audition. They were like, what are you doing like these months? Because we want you to come like out to Morocco and film this. So he apparently really did a lot of work with this character,
Nice.
which is funny, I guess, when you consider how briefly he's in the movie, but like obviously it's a really memorable part. So
Absolutely.
also when they do finally hang Rick, there's this whole thing where the warden's explaining like, oh, it didn't break his neck, so now we have to watch him strangled to death. Um, Brendan Fraser says he really did get choked out during this scene. He blames the director. The director blames him. It looks like in a somewhat good-natured way, at least. But like there were interviews where they were literally blaming each other for this happening. But Brendan Fraser said, Rick is dangling at the end of the rope, and he's such a tough guy that his neck didn't snap. There was a hangman's gallows, and there was a hemp rope tied to a noose that was placed around my neck. The first take, I'm doing my best choking acting. Steve, our director, says, can we go for another one and take up the tension on the rope? I said, all right, one more take, because a noose around your neck is going to choke you in the arteries no matter what. I remember seeing the camera start to pan around, and then it was like a black iris at the end of a silent film. I regained consciousness, and one of the EMTs was saying my name. There was gravel in my ear, and shit really hurt. Steven, he and I disagree, but I think he was trying to go, oh, that wacky Brendan acting up a storm again. And I was like, I'm done for the day.
I'm going home now.
Yes. Stephen Sommers said, he tightens the noose, and then as we're about to take the shot, he's trying to make it look like it's really strangling him. I guess it cut off his carotid artery or whatever and knocked him out. Brendan Fraser, technically, yes, it was my fault that I was following directions from my director to sell it. Stephen Sommers, he did it to himself. And then they finished this whole exchange by Brendan Fraser saying that this was one of the points that Rachel Weisz was like, oh my God, they're going to confiscate my equity card because they're having so many safety violations on set.
Kidnapping insurance, dangerous snakes, your director's trying to kill you.
Yep.
Normal shit.
Yeah. So, they let Rick go. We cut to Evie and Jonathan at the port, like they're getting ready to go on that boat. And Evie asks if Jonathan really thinks that Rick is going to show up. And I was like, they just left him to his own devices after that. Like that was a lot of trust there.
Oh yeah, it's another red flag or things that don't make sense, but we're just going with it.
Yeah.
Unless they promised the money after the fact, but he could have just
Oh,
escaped
yeah.
because he was in prison. Like money or not, I'm out of prison. Maybe flee somewhere else.
Yeah. But obviously, I love this reveal of like the very cleaned up Rick showing up. Evie's obviously surprised
Hmm.
because I think it's right when she's calling him a scoundrel or something. And then he's behind her and she's like, oh, and he's no longer George of the Jungle.
No, he's not.
And
He
then he
ends up,
offers to take her bags.
yep, he's being very nice.
Very swoon.
They did just save his neck, literally.
Yep.
He does punch Jonathan right in the face because, he did steal from him. And then
Hmm.
he apologizes for it. And Jonathan goes, that's okay. It happens to me all the time. So you kind of get the vibe that Jonathan's a little swarmy, kind of a little bit of a
Yep.
weasel. Maybe not quite Benny level, but
Right. No, and it's like a really funny way to learn more about his character, too.
yeah.
Once we're on the boat, we meet these Americans that are part of a separate dig crew, maybe
Yes.
led by an Egyptologist. I felt so bad realizing the foreshadowing on the boat because you hear that one American who's the first victim of Emotep later saying that he can't see without his glasses. And he's the one who loses his glasses and gets like caught by the mummy first. I think this is when Evie and Rick are talking and like he's showing her all his like hardware, so to speak, like all these weapons and all this stuff. And she's just like, I'm in this for the Book of Amun Ra. Like, I don't know what you guys are doing. Like,
Hmm.
you all want gold and treasure and whatever. And I'm like so excited to find some artifacts.
I also like that it's a book and she's a librarian.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I remember so many little things about this boat scene, though. It was like, I could almost recite it as everything was going on, like
Yeah.
Rick throwing Benny off the boat, even Benny's line about like, "What about my children?" And Rick's like, "You don't have children." Evie looking back up into her mirror and then like seeing the bad guys right behind her. Even
Yep.
before that, her being like, "Girl, it wasn't that good of a kiss." Like trying to talk herself down from being into Rick.
Yeah, that guy, I felt like he was part of the Magi, but now they seem like they're bad guys. But
No, I think he was supposed to be part of the Magi.
yeah, but they come on board and they're very violent and they're trying to warn these guys to stay away. And they're also figured out somehow they have the key that opens up all the bad stuff. I don't know. But again, through accidents, she gets out of it. There's a fire, puts a candle out in his eye. Rick takes her away. Jonathan's running into the room because now the boat's on fire and he's looking for his sister. And that's when this bad guy bends over to pick up the key. Jonathan runs full speed into him, bumps him into the couch, which is now aflame, and catches this poor man on fire, who was on fire for like 20 minutes. Like,
Yeah. So I
what?
remembered him. Yes, I remember Jonathan bumping him into the fire because it's just funny. But then, yeah, later in the
Oh,
scene,
yeah.
he runs out just still on fire.
Yeah.
But
After
no,
like a
I
shootout and all this
to
other stuff.
to go back to your point about them being magi or not, later, Evelyn says something about like you would risk the lives of innocent people to stop this like monster from being awakened. And they're like, yes. So I think that's why like they're okay using violence for like the greater good, so to speak.
Yeah.
But the scene where Rick is loading his gun, he stops to load his gun, and you see the gunshots in the wall behind him getting closer and closer, and Evie has to move him out of the way. I was just surprised that for all he has survived, he needed this librarian to be like, move.
Yeah.
But we're getting some glimpses, I guess, of Evie being a little more capable than we first thought. However, though, when he asks her if she can swim, she's like, "Of course I can swim if the occasion calls for it."
Throws her overboard.
Um, yep. Jonathan watching the Americans like shooting everyone and shouting like cowboys and being like, Americans.
And that's when our
Uh,
friend on fire bursts back through the scene. And then, of course, the Cowboys light him up. No pun
mhm.
intended there. Still don't know if he died. He falls overboard, and who knows if he survived. I don't know. It doesn't matter, but guy seems pretty strong.
I thought that too. Like, how many times does this guy get shot and he's already on fire? Like,
He's
God.
already on fire.
Uh,
Has been on fire.
he has been on fire. Does Jonathan get the key back because the guy like topples over right next to him? Like, he's threatening
Yeah.
Jonathan.
Yeah. He gets the key back, and then they all have to jump overboard. But
Yep.
Benny has everything else, and Brick's team has nothing.
Yes. So Benny gets all the horses, and Rick's like, looks like someone's on the wrong side of the river.
Yeah. A lot of memorable lines, even if they're not funny or I don't know why, because I just watched this so many times. But like you're talking about the whole boat scene, I remember very thoroughly, especially the shootout part with Rick. This line here, and I always kind of thought, like, why does Rick tell him that? You have all the horses. All right. Well,
Oh,
go
yeah.
ahead and go in the wrong direction on the horseback. Like, go further away from where we're trying to go.
That's a good point. But then we wouldn't have this memorable exchange.
Yeah. True. True.
I wrote in my notes. Should probably mention how obsessed I was with Evie as a character. Like I mentioned it a little bit. I was so into ancient Egypt as a kid. I wanted to be an Egyptologist like all through high school. I think trying to understand what I would do with that as a job is what eventually like a lot of adults were like, "Oh, you could teach high school history." And I was like, "Well, that sounds awful because having been in high school, I see how the kids treat you here." And I'm like, "Don't think I want to do that for the rest of my life." But yeah, I was so into Egyptology, classics, history, all of this. Evie's job was so cool to me. This would have been like a dream job for me. The fact that she knew ancient Egyptian, and then to the point where like I just loved her character so much and I loved the name Evelyn so much. If my son had been a girl, I wanted to name him Evelyn and call him Evie. Um,
Wow.
I know. But Evelyn has become such a popular name that I was like, I don't know, like maybe I don't want to use that name anymore because I just don't want my kid to be like the sixth Evelyn in their class or whatever.
Yeah.
But my husband's always like, yeah, well, everyone else probably grew up watching the same stuff you did and liking the same names you did. And I was like, oh, that's maybe a fair point,
Wouldn't be talking about this movie otherwise, I guess.
I guess. Yeah. Speaking of like my obsession with Evie as a character, this is when like we get her kind of reveal of like, oh, she's actually attractive too because she has to go into town. She's like lost all her clothing. They, I don't know, some women like dress her up in some more traditional attire and like she has some makeup on. And now Rick's like, oh, wow, like she looks amazing
Hmm.
because she has eyeliner on.
She does. Very, very much so. This classic nerd to hottie cliche. Oh, I like to be in dusty books. And all of a sudden, oh, look at my outfit and my eyeliner and, bedroom eyes.
She took her glasses off and now she's a hottie.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how you do it in movies. Well, they had to cut
Yeah.
Rick's hair and
Um,
shave him, put him in a button up, and then, she loses her glasses. So, it works for the guys too a little bit, I guess.
I wanted to point out though, speaking of her mentioning as the boat sinks that she's like lost all her clothes and everything, she has that white nightgown on when they jump off the boat. They apparently had to digitally like color in that nightgown because once it got wet, it was completely see through. And they were like, well, we can't keep a PG-13 rating with this. But I also felt like, wouldn't they like someone would have had to have thought of that?
Right. Why wasn't she
Like
wearing
it's a
something
light.
underneath?
Well, and, like, maybe she was, and they were still just like, "We can't show her in her underwear or whatever." I don't know, but it's white,
Right.
and they're gonna get wet.
Right. Did they never
I don't
watch
know.
The Quiet Man? So we see a lot of Mr. Wayne in that scene. Yeah, we were robbed of this. Ugh.
Jeez. Yeah, there are so many examples throughout film history that, like, when your white outfit gets wet, you're gonna see some nipples.
Mm-hmm.
No one's learning from their history.
No.
Thank you for
Besides,
reminding me of this.
oh, you're welcome. This is what I'm here for.
Oh god, okay. It's not even St. Patrick's Day.
So,
Um
besides Evelyn's glow up or whatever you want to call it, she gets clothes, but they also get other supplies. They
Mhm.
buy camels because Benny stole the horses.
Yeah.
And as they're going through the desert, Jonathan's complaining about the camels, and Evie's saying she rather likes them, and Jonathan's going back and forth about, oh, they're gross and they're smelly and they spit, and then we just cut to the warden who is literally spitting and is like eating something with his hands, but like in a way that's kind of gross. And
Yeah.
that happens a few times in this movie where Jonathan's like complaining about smell or something that's icky, and then he turns like, oh, it's this guy again.
Yeah. You had another note about the warden when they're all, like, kind of falling asleep on their camels.
Yeah, like he's snoring pretty loudly. So they're like going through the desert at night, obviously. They have to get
Mhm.
somewhere for the sunrise to see where the city is at. It's, comes only at sunrise because it's, hidden. And one of them, I think probably Rick, hits the warden to wake him up. He hits him, and I swear to God, he says, no, no more goat soup as he awakes from some sort of dream. But I'm like, wait, I had to rewind. Like, what is he saying? I don't even know if that's what he's saying, but that's what I heard the third time.
I went back and looked at this, and he definitely says something, something goat soup. Like, it
All
might
right.
be no more goat soup, but I had never noticed this before, and I went back and looked at it when I saw your note. He definitely says something about goat soup, so,
It just caught me off guard. And he just is here to have these little moments that make you chuckle in this
yep,
very serious, scary movie. Well, during this, soup awakening dream, we get a cutaway. We see the Magi. Of course, they're watching the desert.
as
That's
always.
quite literally their job. He notices Rick and he says something like, "This one is strong." And, 3 years ago, Rick, that is walking away from the sand face or whatever. And one of the other Magi's asked if they should kill him. He's like, "No, the desert will do it." And I
Yeah.
understand watching this movie, we're supposed to believe he remembers him, but does he really remember this guy? Like, come on, like, how many people does he kill and shoo away and scare off from this ancient city?
Well, my impression, at least from the way Rick made it sound, is that not a lot of people, like, know where this is or know how to get there, and some people think it's just a myth,
Yeah.
maybe, because then Rick says something to Evelyn about, like, all my men believed in it enough to march across Libya or something, which, by the way, I found out that at this time that this is set, Libya was not Libya yet. It was the Italian Northern African territory.
Oh,
Like, could you imagine that line if he had to say all that? So, my only thought is, like, maybe so few people end up there that he does remember Rick, but also they're all kinda, like, magical, mystical, so, like, sure.
I guess saying it out loud too is, yeah, maybe so few people make it there, but even fewer make it out.
Yeah,
But they were so far away. They're on a cliffside as he was
I know.
like fleeing. And also, why would he assume he would come back? I don't know. It's fine. He recognized him. He's like, that dude's got grit.
Yeah, yeah.
So they race and they get to Hamanatra, and Brick is tying a rope around a column, which we see later. They use it to grapple down into this empty shaft or whatever. And he's like just tying the rope in a big knot and he keeps swinging it around and hitting the warden. He keeps taking a step back and he's swinging it farther and taking a step back. Ever since I was a kid, I remember seeing this scene just laughing. It's just a dumb little 30-second cutaway, but it just always tickles me.
Like you said, they race the group of Americans who are also with Benny and an Egyptologist. The Egyptologist at one point says, "They are led by a woman. What does a woman know?" And then they immediately cut to Evie, like, sharing all her knowledge about everything, which is great. Also, Evie gets so excited because Rick gives her some dig equipment that he stole from the Americans. Again, just her character. She likes books and history. Like, this is
Mhm.
what makes her happy, and I
Yep.
love this.
Yeah, this Egyptologist guy. He's played by Jonathan Hyde. I only can ever think of him from Jumanji, though. I forget he's in this movie. His role is a little smaller, but he plays the dad in Jumanji, who also is that safari hunter.
Okay, yeah. I haven't seen Jumanji in a really long time, so I did not remember this at all. To be fair, every time I think of this actor, I think of him, like, sitting there with the locust being like, "What have we done?" So,
That's a good shot.
yeah.
Once they get down into this shaft, Evie is, being a woman who doesn't know anything, according to this other guy, and setting up
Mhm,
all these mirrors. And they're like, "What the hell are you doing?" She's like, "Oh, it's an ancient Egypt trick." And they angle the mirror so it hits the light and it lights the other mirrors and lights up the room and whatever, whatever.
mhm.
Can't help
Yep.
but think of Indiana Jones.
Yeah, yeah,
Won't be the last time I say that, I'm sure.
of course, yeah. This is when our poor warden finds the scarabs. He's initially, like, popping them out of the wall because he thinks they're blue gold, and I was like, "Is that a thing?"
I
I don't
don't
know.
know. I've heard of white gold and rose gold.
Right. but whatever. There's like a carving in the wall of a pharaoh, and he has these scarabs all around him, and the warden thinks they're just decorative, like jewels or whatever,
Yeah.
or gold. And I always remember when the warden strikes the pose imitating the pharaoh,
Yeah.
but it's like the last thing he ever does before the beetle like crawls under his skin and kills him, which is horrible.
Well, yeah. We got to take some of these secondary characters and show them how dangerous these other things are so we can keep the main people alive, obviously.
Right. Although I will say, like, reading so much into how they did the special effects, like, obviously it's all computer imaging after the fact. So everyone was acting with nothing, right? Like, nothing was actually going
Yeah.
on. Just impressed that this guy who's like maybe a random comic from England or, you know, with this like smaller background compared to everyone else, also did a very memorable death scene.
Yeah. I think part of
Uh,
his performance too is his cadence and how he talked. And I don't know if
mhm,
it's just for the role, if he kind of played up his accent, because like I said, he's from England, but his parents, I don't think were from England. So he
mm,
has a little bit of that accent. But like when they're hanging him, they're like, well, what did he do? He's like, apparently he had a really good time. And like the way he
yeah.
just emphasizes certain words, it
Hmm.
always makes me smile. And like I said, Benny, he has this kind of like almost kind of nerdy, scrawny little like weak voice, but much funnier.
Yeah. I couldn't help though thinking about this when, the warden, he runs into a wall and then drops dead.
Hmm.
And he's freaking out because, this scarab is in his body. Like we see it go all the way up to his head. No one realizes it's the scarab yet, and they're just like, "Oh man, what happened to that guy?" Like, he just ran into a wall.
While they're trying to set up a dig site, and even at one point, Jonathan's like, "Where'd our smelly little friend go?"
Yeah.
So they had no idea. They just like, okay. Well, it is weird though. They're like, okay, well, that happened, I guess.
Right, right. That's more what I was getting at. We as a viewer understand why that happened, but they're just like, "Huh, well, there goes that guy." Like, also not for the last time getting Aladdin vibes from this, like, he was greedy,
Hmm.
then he got punished.
Yep. Just
Yep.
the room they're in with the treasure towards the end is also very Aladdin like.
Yeah.
That happens to our warden friend, but the Americans suffer some booby traps. Of course, these are characters we've just met and then they die. They're like their help or whatever.
Yeah, like
They
hired
get
help,
burned.
mhm. Well, and even
Yeah,
the
they
the mean Egyptologist is like, "Let the pores do this job." Like,
right, yeah. Because
yeah,
the Americans almost did it. But yeah, they get burned from pressurized salt acid or something like that,
that's
right?
what they say, yeah. Mhm.
So they're kind of these two camps are kind of exchanging horror stories. And then the Magi show up.
Yep,
They're like, all right, we're gonna shoot everybody. So there's a big shootout. And to somehow de-escalate the situation, Rick escalates the danger by lighting a stick of dynamite. He's like, all right, well,
yep,
you guys want to go? Let's go.
yeah, yep. Yeah, so I guess the head magi agrees to leave him alone as long as they leave the next day,
Yeah,
which is putting, like, a lot of trust into these
a lot of
people.
trust.
So much happens between that and when the magi returns, like, so much.
And where do they go? Why don't go so far? Let's give them a little bit of leniency, but don't unhook the leash. Just loosen the grip a little bit.
Yeah, that's why, like, I was a little surprised that they didn't come back when, assuming they're watching, they see everyone go back in.
Right.
Like, 'cause they have a lot of time to do a lot of things that you'd think the Magi would have, like, been a little concerned about, but whatever, it's fine. I love this bit, though, later when Rick and Evie are sitting around the campfire and Evie's, like, very drunk,
Yeah.
and he's trying to teach her to throw a punch, and they're just, like, talking, and this is when she has her, "I am a librarian."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you're thinking about me. What is a place like me doing a girl like this?
Yep. Okay, so it's the next day where they should have been leaving, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to point out though, she throws a punch or tries to throw a punch, whatever. She's already very drunk and she misses and she falls because she's drunk. And then
Mhm.
Rick's like, time for another drink. And I'm like, is it though? Because she's had plenty, I think.
I think he's saying it sarcastically because she grabs the bottle from Jonathan,
Oh,
and she's
okay.
like, "Unlike my brother, I know when to stop." And he's like, "Oh, do you now?"
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. Have a real life story.
Yes.
Uh, Out of curiosity, I had asked a friend of mine who is a librarian if she became a librarian because of this movie. Because thinking back, this is a high school friends when this movie comes out, and she said, "Well, no, but yes, but not really." Kind of your thought process about like doing this kind of research, and that
Mhm.
would be really fun, but there's not really a big career in that. So the alternative is like, okay, well, there's a lot of jobs available in the public work, hence the
Yeah.
library.
Yeah.
But she does think of this line when she says, "I am a librarian." So
That's
I
so
don't know if she
funny.
gets to say it in real life, but at least she says it internally,
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Good for her.
right?
And I mean that genuinely.
So yeah, I asked like, "Did you
Um,
become a librarian because of this character?" And when she gave me like the very technical answer, I go, "So it was because of Rick then." She said no.
oh, okay. I'm glad I wasn't the only one who was like, this woman is like living my dream. Like, this is part of why I just love this movie so much because I love her character and like I love the two of them as a couple. It's like also you see all those memes now that people are like, every cast member in this movie was so hot. Like, did they know what they were doing when they cast this movie? And I was like, it's a very good point, actually.
Yeah, there's plenty of memes of that. And what did we talk about the other day? Oh, I've seen memes for like the term bisexual awakening because you have like these feminine looking men, like the magi guy is like very soft and he looks kind of prettied up, and then you've got like a rough and tumble
Hmm.
guy like Rick, and then obviously you got Rachel, and like
Hmm.
okay, that's kind of funny.
I mean, I definitely remember thinking both Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz were like so pretty in this movie.
And then we have poor fat mummy.
No, because even like the mummy's really attractive. He just thought he was too fat for the role.
Oh, fair enough.
So anyway, we're getting to him almost.
Almost. Kind
Almost.
of.
Okay. So it's the next day. They're all supposed to have left, and obviously they don't. The Americans find this box, like this crate, and they read the curse. And I was like, again, why is part of cursing Emotep also giving him amazing powers if he is ever awakened? Just seems backwards.
Yeah, I totally understand that what you're thinking here because it's like why do all this? But at the same time, I feel like it's more of a warning, and I'm just going to chalk it up to what I said earlier. This guy knows how to come back once he's resurrected. He knows what to do, how to do it, how to bring back his woman, how to bring back his friends. Got his homies got to come help him out. He's got a whole army. If any of these other people did what Emotep did, I don't think it'd be as big of an issue because this guy apparently knows how to like hang out with Anubis and bring himself back and all this other good stuff. So I get what you're thinking. I get it.
Yeah, I think I'm maybe like done thinking about it so hard, but like, yeah. Although my notes were so funny looking back at this scene because I was like, what's in this box? Isn't this when they find Emotep's organs, like the jars? And then I was like, oh, never mind. It's the Book of the Dead. Oh, wait, never mind. It is also organs.
Yes.
Because I was sometimes when we take notes, I'm just trying to keep like a sense of where we are in the story and what's happened in case we need to refer back. And I'm just like, all these notes, like, what's in the box?
That's a book. Oh, also organs. Oh, also curse.
Okay, so here's my question though. When they open like the sort of this like hidden bottom in the box and they find the jars, and the Egyptologist is like, here's your treasure, fellas, or whatever he says to the Americans. Is it because the jars are made out of gold or something? Is that what I'm supposed to assume? Maybe they don't
Yeah.
understand what the jars are, but you would think the Egyptologist knows what they are.
I think at this point he doesn't care. He has his book. And also maybe he's
So,
using them as bait. Maybe not quite that's the right term I'm going with here, but he has his book. He's content. And he's like, oh, there's your treasure, gentlemen. And maybe he does know what's in them. I mean, you think he would know because that's his job to know. And even I knew, we're like, oh, those are what they put organs in. You probably shouldn't take
Right.
those. Also, the curse on the top of the lid. So maybe this character's just like, all right, you guys want to be greedy? I told you not to be, but you know what? Go for it, kids.
But then we also see later that the Egyptologist has one of the jars too, because there's
Yeah, I
4
don't
of them,
remember.
4 jars.
Yeah,
So, like,
I don't remember that happening, but sure, it happened apparently.
yeah, because in this scene, he's definitely just more interested in the Book of the Dead
Yeah.
because he's like, "This is treasure,
Hmm.
priceless artifact." Okay, so then cut back to Rick, Jonathan, and Evie's dig. They find a coffin. They realize that this key that the one Magi was asking about is like part of this thing that Jonathan had. Use it to open the coffin. And to be fair, they have like propped it up against the wall to make this part even like worse, I guess. But they prop it up, they open the coffin, and the mummy like jumps out at them. And Evie says, I hate it when these things do that. So she
How
has
often?
found a few mummies in her life.
Yeah, how often do they just jump out like that? But also, is it supposed to be this juicy?
Right. Before that, Evie says that she's always dreamed of something like this. And Rick's like, you've dreamed about dead guys?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
It's he like purposely takes what she says out of context, and
Yep.
I know Rick's not a dummy. I think he's just trying to be suave, cute.
I think he also is genuinely like confused by her career choice. Like I think
Yeah,
he genuinely doesn't understand why anyone would be excited about this part of it instead of like the treasure part of it. But yes, so yeah, the mummy is juicy. And this is when we see that, there are the fingernail scratches on the inside and he
mhm,
has the inscription, the death is only the beginning. And like again, seems like a curse that kind of backfired
yeah,
at this point. Like, I don't know. When we are back at the campfire, like that night, Rick is sitting next to Benny, and there's someone else, maybe Jonathan. And
Jonathan.
when Evie walks by, there's this little bit where Rick is like, you're in her seat. And Benny's like, haha. And he's like, now. And Benny gets up and leaves. And I don't know if I've ever really caught that before, but it's just like, I like these cute little ways that he is obviously falling for her, but also like first he had to become less annoyed by her.
Yeah, there's also still kind of the underlying him being a gentleman, picking up her bags, making sure Benny's not sitting in her seat. Also, I don't think he really
Yeah.
wants to sit by Benny,
Right. Exactly that too. Yeah.
but it also shows his
Um,
presence. There's another part where he says something to somebody like, "Ah," and he's like, no, now. And like, okay. It's like Rick's very serious and they don't want to make him mad.
that's a good point. Yeah. This is when we eventually get to Evie having taken the book from the Egyptologist. What does she say? According to you and my brother, this is borrowing because Rick
Yep.
says she shouldn't have stolen the book. So Evie says, no harm ever came from reading a book. Opens the book, the wind howls. Rick says, that happens a lot around here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I'd close that bitch right back up.
I'm, oh, yeah. I still find it odd that for all of Evie's knowledge, she wouldn't think anything of this. Maybe, if nothing else, read it silently. And
I wouldn't even do that. I wouldn't trust it. I don't know. I feel like with all her knowledge, she doesn't believe in the ghost story aspect of it. She at one point
yeah,
said something about like, "Oh, you and my brother believe in this kind of stuff."
yes.
Yet they found a hidden city that you can only get to when at sunrise it hits the right light and looks like a mirage at first, and then it's not. You just saw a city come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe believe in some of the ghost stories.
Yeah. And I was just going to bring that up that, they do some work to play up that she doesn't believe in this part of it. I think she calls it like hokum at some point. But then to your point, the ancient Egyptians obviously went out of their way for some things to be very sneaky and tricky and even like these booby traps and stuff. So there is danger involved, whether it's supernatural or not, which I think all of that would lead me to being a little more cautious. But also, like
Absolutely.
I said, I'm already kind of apparently taking the whole being around dead bodies thing a little more seriously than some of the characters in these movies. So she reads from the book. I wrote, "Is it weird that reading out loud from the book is what actually wakes up the mummy?" I feel like that wasn't in any of the stuff that they had said earlier. It always seemed like this would all come about if they simply opened the coffin.
Yeah, it did kind of have that vibe, but I think there has to be some steps, I guess, because it's basically a magic spell, and it's
Sure,
not
yeah.
just hey, knock knock knock, wake up, but again with the booby traps and literally everything has a warning label on it.
Yeah, that's true.
Like if you
It all
read
came
this,
with warnings.
yeah, if you're reading this, stop. Don't read any further because if you finish the sentence, you will all die. Oh shit, you read it. That's basically what's happening in this book. And then
Yeah.
somehow the Egyptologist wakes up. He's like, "You shouldn't read from the book." But earlier they see him like trying to pry it open. That's where Evie gets the idea. Oh, it has the same little locking mechanism to the
Mhm.
key I have. So what was he going to try to do when he opened the book? Was he not going to read it?
Like I said, maybe if you read it silently, it doesn't work the same way.
Yeah, I guess so. You're not doing any like
Not like
incantation,
saying
I
a spell.
suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. I would
I
just
don't
keep
know.
that bitch locked up and maybe like not have even brought it up to the surface of the world and kept it buried and hidden. But
I feel like we've seen enough movies at this point, like Hocus Pocus, where opening the book is like your downfall. So
yeah,
we've been trained for like this kind of situation.
I would be nowhere near this damn book.
I did want to get your opinion though. I feel like, to me personally, like when the mummy first awakens, we kind of hear this like screaming. And I felt like these sound effects they give the mummy to me work really well. Like the mummy's always like screaming and screeching. And I feel like this was such a good way to make it scarier. Like one, without it being like gory and bloody, because they had to avoid that. But I know they had talked about this issue of like, you're not going to scare people with just like a guy shuffling in bandages, right? But like giving him these sound effects, I feel was really effective.
I think so.
He screams himself awake, basically. I was like, okay.
Yeah, could you imagine? She says the words to wake him up, and instead of this like screech scream, just like, oh man, what a good slumber.
Oh,
Like
like
now,
Billy from Hocus Pocus.
exactly. Yes,
Yes.
works then. Maybe not
Yep.
so much now.
Yeah. Oh, they get inside because like the locusts come, right? And this
Yes.
is when we have that shot of the Egyptologist, like, what have we done? I always feel so bad for this one American that falls and loses his glasses. Like I said, it was foreshadowing beforehand. But no, this is like terrifying to me. The idea that like he can't see, everyone's left him, obviously. Like none of these people are actually like good people. And then like because I know what's coming, like not only can he can't see, like he's about to literally lose his eyeballs. Like that's hardcore.
It is hardcore. Few comments here. First of all,
Okay.
if you're watching, you see I have glasses on. My glasses are very strong. I have bad eyes. I would still not have a problem of getting up and getting the fuck out of there if a mummy was coming.
I don't know if
Can't see
they
very
realize
well, but
it's
I
a
could. I could.
mummy yet.
They're all scared of something. They're all running and
It's
leaving
the
him there.
locust.
No, there was the scarabs. I think come to life and start chasing people because we see them eat
Oh,
somebody as
that
well.
too.
There's a bunch of danger going on because the mummy's walking
Stuff's
around.
happening, yeah.
Yeah,
I just didn't think they had run into the mummy yet.
You're probably right because he's the first victim. But there's other scary things happening inside the temple.
Yeah,
But so
that's
there's
fair.
that. And it's like, you know what? At least like if you're that bad, hand on the wall, run until you don't feel wall and turn. I don't know. It just when
I
they
know,
do the whole
something,
like
yeah.
the Velma from Scooby Doo thing, it's like it's so unbelievable. It's a guy who wears glasses like literally every day to survive. I still think this is ridiculous. That being said, he is the first victim. This guy is collecting organs to become whole again because right now he's just like a juicy skeleton, like half his head's missing.
Yeah.
The guy is so blind he cannot run away to safety, gets his eyes and tongue taken away from him. So I'm like, how does that work? Does the mummy have bad vision now? It's the same eyeballs, right? Can the mummy see without glasses? How does this work? What kind of magic is this? And can I get that on myself?
I had that thought too of like,
Thank you.
wait, does the mummy have bad vision now?
Right. Because they
Um,
went at great lengths to like show how blind this guy is without glasses. And then the next scene, he's like, he took my eyes. And then you're like, well, what good is that going to do him?
I just assume like magic and it's fine. But um it's funny because to me, I know I scare easily, but I like a good creepy factor more than like blood and gore personally. And I always thought this was so creepy. The way that it all happens, like you don't really see much, but you know someone like crawls up behind him. I've said it enough times on this podcast. I personally find it incredibly unsettling when bodies don't look right, when bodies don't move the right way. So, like this guy turning around, literally missing his eyeballs, to me, that is like, that's a lot for me.
Yeah.
Even without it being like bloody, because then, like you said, he loses his tongue too. I was like, wouldn't he be bleeding out at this point?
Apparently not. But they can't
Um,
make it bloody and gory because it's PG-13,
yeah, and
which
it's
is
so
fine.
funny because there was a fleeting moment where I was like, "Oh, I wonder if my son could watch this with me because like it's not bloody." And that's all I could think of. It's like it's kind of a funny, scary movie. No, the imagery in this is so creepy because I had forgotten about like, him shriveling up the Americans one by one, like, mm-mm. Also the way the mummy like growls at the screen all the time. It's like, why did I ever think that this would be a good idea? Like, thank God I stopped myself.
If you ever need a second
But
opinion, you can always reach out. Like, do you
yeah, I
remember
know.
this movie? Should he watch this? I'm like, I don't know.
But yeah, like to this day, if my husband or my son can't find their glasses or whatever, I think about this scene from The Mummy. I've
Oh,
always
I
thought about this scene from The Mummy, which like maybe is not great, but but I
no.
think about this guy being in the tomb being like, "I can't see without my glasses."
Yeah.
Like,
It's fun in a way how they, as much as I complain about, like, this is a little unreal how blind this guy is without these pieces
right.
of thin glass in 1923.
Mhm.
But they set it up in such a great way where Imhotep's down the hallway from him. He's like, "Hey, what's up, man? Like, can you help me?" And you're like, "Oh shit, the guy is just a blur to him." So that's the part of the creep factor. But then the reveal is a good kind of a jump scare. I feel.
So, Evie finds him, turns around, reveals like his, face is missing. Then she comes face to face with the mummy. First of all, I love her scream because it's such a legitimately like she is scared. It's not like a pretty girl scream. Like I don't know how else to explain that, but it's like that felt legit to me.
It sounded more from her belly than from her throat.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah,
But while she is being like backed up against a wall by this mummy, she's like kind of quietly begging this American to help her, please. And he's like, I've literally lost my eyes
yeah, yes.
and my tongue. And it's like, you don't think this guy's like going through some shit right here? What could he even do
But
at
the thing
this?
is too, it's without overthinking. It's very natural reaction.
Sure. Yeah.
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 Help!
Um,
Help! Help!
yeah.
Lady, help me!
Yeah, I know,
I,
right?
I need a seeing eye librarian. Let's go. Does the
Um,
Book of the Dead have Braille?
to your note, when Rick finds her, he's like, "Oh, you played hide and seek," and it's like, "You think that's what's going on right now?"
They were looking all over for her.
Oh yeah, we should mention too that this is when all the scarabs really do come out because like they're trying to press themselves up against walls to like avoid the scarabs, and this is when I don't know she kind of finds a trapdoor or whatever.
Yeah.
But you had made a point that the scarabs eat people so quick now, and
Yeah.
they had like taken their time with Emotep. My only thought was that their food was running from them this time. I don't know.
Mm, that makes sense.
And also they were kind of like stirred up instead of just being like calmly having this like body that couldn't go anywhere. I don't know.
Yeah, and after 2,000 years, maybe they're real hungry.
So, yes, this is when Rick is like, "Oh, Evie, you're playing hide and seek," and then suddenly notices the mummy and all this other stuff going on. Like,
Mhm.
just, and also they had just been running from what they have literally seen to be flesh eating beetles. He enters this shot so calmly, all things
Yeah.
considered, I guess.
One of the scenes I always remember, kind of like what you're talking about with the boat scene, is this where he finds Evie and he's like, "Oh, there's a mummy here." And the mummy does another roar screech thing, and Brendan Fraser just screams back at him and then blasts him with a shotgun. It's like, all right, time to go. I'm like, they make Rick pretty badass.
Yeah, because like he's obviously taken aback, but not debilitatingly so. Like he just gets
Yeah.
right in there.
They still leave the blind guy behind.
Oh,
The guy's still on the floor.
I was gonna say I thought it was funny when they leave the scene like the Americans that are not the ones who just had their eyeballs taken are like the last ones out, and you can hear them being like, "He was walking. Did you see that? He was walking. He was walking." And
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever picked up on that because I had the closed captioning on this time when I watched it. I love that. I love how like at the very last second you see like the mummy get back up, and it's good.
Mm-hmm.
This is when they make it out. They run right into the Magi because Magi is like, "Oh, you fucked up now."
Mm-hmm.
But like also where were they? Like you had said earlier, like they're supposed to be the protectors and everything. What were they doing this whole time?
Were they having a nap? What's going on here?
I mean, it's kind of like what it seems like. But I always think of this bit when Benny runs into the mummy and he's doing like all of the prayers. Like he has every religious symbol around his neck and he's like changing languages to do all the prayers.
Yeah, it is a great scene, and it somehow like just makes him even more Weasley because it obviously I doubt he actually believes in any of these religions. 'Cause, the guy's like, "Oh, it's the language of the slaves. I have use for you, anyways." To your point,
Mhm.
he just pulls a handful of gold out of his where I don't want to know, maybe, but he's just like, "There are riches for you," and you're like, "Where did all that come from, sir? You are naked and have barely any muscle or skeleton."
Yeah, I don't know if I ever noticed it before because I always just think of the bit with all the religious charms and, Benny switching languages because I think that's so funny. And also, to your point, such a commentary on how Weasley is because it's like, oh, you believe in literally nothing. You're just
Yeah,
like,
whatever
you know,
works in the situation, that's
whatever.
what he's going to go with.
Exactly. But you even see like a wider shot of the mummy, coming toward him. And like, there's nothing, like you said, like there's no clothes. He's barely even put together at this point physically.
Yeah,
Like, did they bury the cursed priest with treasure? Like, I'm so
in his
confused.
hand. Mummy magic? Question mark. That's how I think it happened.
Okay. So everyone hightails it out of there. They're like back at this like hotel or whatever they're staying at, but they're packing up to like leave Egypt, rightfully so. And I think Evie and Rick start arguing about whether to stay or go. And then we cut to this poor American, who's bandaged up and meeting with who he thinks is like a local prince or something.
Yeah,
But Benny is interpreting. And again, fucking hardcore how they're like the prince thanks you for for your hospitality and your eyes and your tongue, and like it dawns on this guy that this is the same creature or whatever. I love it.
yeah.
Works for me. However, why isn't this man in a hospital? Like, what are we doing?
Well, they are in the middle of the desert where it looks like the only thing around is a saloon. And he seems fine. I mean, he's missing eyes and a tongue, but as we mentioned with this PG-13 rating, he didn't lose any blood. He healed up rather quickly. He's just probably confused and scared. I don't know.
I
My
mean,
bigger question, I think, is maybe they can't get to a hospital, but like, oh, lucky for him, he's not bleeding out. However, why did they just leave this guy unattended to, this newly, literally blinded man who went through some shit and is probably not a shock? They're like, all right, we're all going to go downstairs and get some bourbon. Uh,
yeah,
we're going to keep you up here, guy. Hopefully, no one comes and eats the rest of your organs. Wouldn't that be weird?
that'd be weird.
And he does.
I Yeah. I mean, I think given how they all reacted and like left him for dead in the tomb, like I guess I'm not surprised.
Good
I could
point.
also see them thinking like, surely the mummy is not here at our hotel and he's gonna like take the rest of his stuff, right? We learn a lot of things like really quickly because the bourbon or whatever they're drinking turns to blood because like the mummy is bringing the 10 plagues of Egypt or whatever along with him. This leads them to go back upstairs, find that our American friend with the missing eyes is all like shriveled up and desiccated and like, oh, the mummy's here. This is when they go back to Evie's where Evie works, right? Isn't this how they learn everything? From her boss. And then they also find out her boss is like part of the secret society, part of the Magi, kind of, because that head Magi is there when they learn everything.
Yeah.
Because she says, oh, he called me a Nox and a Moon. And they were like, oh, maybe he's going to try to resurrect his love and he's going to use you as the human sacrifice. And that's when Jonathan is like, bad luck, old mom.
Yeah. But then they go back to the hotel because
They
that's,
fortify themselves supposedly from all this. Yes, because Rick locks her in the room because he realizes like he's going to be coming for her. And that's when she's like yelling and screaming for her brother to help her because Rick literally picks her up and locks her in the room. And he's like, sorry, Evie, he's a bit tall.
yeah.
This is also when we find out that the other Americans and I guess the Egyptologist are in danger because they took the jars.
Yeah. So they have to go find the Egyptologist because he's not at the hotel. And this is where Rick's like, all right, come on, Jonathan. It's like, I'd rather stay here and, help you now. He's like, all right, coming. So bossy.
He is, yeah, and he tells the remaining Americans they have to, like, stand guard outside Evie's bedroom.
Yeah, you mentioned already that why does this guy who should know about these curses and how ancient Egypt worked, because literally that's his field of study, why is he like going in and out of these alleyways with these jars or a jar? So this scene where Jonathan and Rick, they go to, I guess, this guy's room. He wasn't staying in the hotel, doesn't seem like. And he's already been turned into, skeleton. He's got the mummy ate him. And they find Benny
Mhm,
there. This is where they find out Benny's been working with the mummy. And
mhm.
he's like trying to run away from him. And Rick throws a chair, hits him in the ass, and falls over. And he's got a line that's something like, you came back from the desert with a new friend, didn't you?
Mhm.
The whole time, Benny is, of course, being Weasley, as we mentioned, and he is trying to lie, but somehow he's just the whole movie. He's terrified of Rick. Like Rick can get
Yes.
anything out of Benny. Which is pretty funny. Probably
Mhm.
because all the times Benny keeps fucking him over. He's like, I'm getting an ass beating coming to me. I know it.
Right, of course. Just
Yeah,
wanted to point out that the thing with the chair is pretty badass.
yeah.
He's like, "I know, I'll throw a piece of furniture across the room at him."
And he gets him. Yeah.
Yeah, and he gets him.
So he's roughing him up, asking more questions, and Benny says something in another language. Rick's like, "What did you say to me?" He's like, "I can't tell you. You'll just hurt me more." And I think he threatens him by like picking him up like a child to the ceiling fan. Like, what's a ceiling? Like,
Mhm.
it'll hurt, sure, but like, it's not going to kill you. I don't know. Like, I've hit my head to the ceiling fan before. I go, ah, damn it, and that's really been the end of it.
Nah. They made this one sound pretty intimidating at the very least.
Sure, maybe the material was harder and
Y
tougher in
right.
1923. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then, so he's explaining the whole situation that, that he's coming back for these jars. He's going to rejuvenate himself. And, he's like, what else does he want? Like, he just wants the book. That's it. I swear. And he looks at Jonathan and your sister. Other than that, that's it. I swear to God, that's it.
Yeah. And then while all this is happening, the mummy gets into Evie's room. Oh, because the one American leaves to go get like a bunch of bourbon, and the American who's like supposed to still be guarding the room gets got by the mummy and he gets all, shriveled up. And
Mhm.
mummy gets into Evie's room. I thought it was so funny though when Rick and Jonathan bust in the room. They see that the mummy is kissing Evie while she's sleeping,
Yeah.
and they scare him with the cat because that's a whole thing too. We forgot to mention like cats. He's scared of cats. Cats equal underworld
Yes.
something. So he sweeps away very dramatically. We get a sand face again, whatever. Rick says to Evie, "Are you all right?" And Jonathan says, "Well, I'm not sure."
See, he is funny in this movie.
Yeah, and it's so funny because he said like most of his direction was the director telling him like just do stuff in the background, and I'm like, if this was all ad lib on his part, like he's definitely funny. I don't know what he was so concerned about.
Hmm.
Somehow leads us back to like the library where she works. I don't know, but they're trying to read this ruin, and obviously Evie is trying to read this ruin because she's the only one who can, and a bunch of these people are crashing in because Emotep's sort of like zombified all the people in this town. I think it's so funny though when she finally, like at the last second, manages to read what this says before, this mob gets them. And she's like, "Take that, Bembridge scholars." Because we see in the beginning of the movie, she did not get into like their society again, ironically, because she did not have enough experience in the field, which I'm sure she has now.
Yeah, she could reapply after all this.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and they're figuring it out because they have the wrong book that they need, and it was apparently they were buried at different sites. They did the old
Hmm.
bait and switch situation, I think what happened here.
Hmm.
And so they need the Book of Life, I think it is, not opposite of the Book of the Dead,
Sure.
to remove these curses that are on them, and I think
Yeah.
make Emotep mortal so they can kill him and not be plagued.
Yes. Oh, yeah, and this Jonathan, like, runs away saying he's gonna get the car started. I guess I had not remembered this little bit. He literally is going to start the car. I thought he was just, like, running away. Like,
Yeah, because she's
it's a getaway car.
yeah, and the zombies are breaking into the house and like it's everything's the last second. And as
Mhm.
they run past Jonathan, he thinks rather quickly and just starts kind of shuffling and moaning and
Yeah.
blends in with the crowd very briefly. I was like, oh, it's that
Yeah.
easy, huh? They should just do
Yeah.
that the whole time.
Right? Yeah, I think that was funny too. But then, yes, so like you said, everything's last minute. They all jump into the car at the last second. Benny, always such a weasel, sees them driving away and like yells to Emotep that they're getting away. I think this is when we see Emotep in the window. And this whole time, it's like whenever he does his scream or whatever, his jaw kind of unhinges, like
Yeah.
his face opens or his mouth opens so wide. I find that like personally so unsettling, but like this is also my thing. I don't like when bodies don't move correctly. So yes, like it's not like this is a scary movie, but there are images like this that I'm like, oh, like I don't like how wide his mouth opens. But
Yeah.
this is also the shot where like he's in the window, he's in a black cloak and he raises his arms up and I always think he looks like a bat, especially with like
Yes.
the way the mouth
Yeah.
is. But again, more clothed than what you would have thought given the interviews from the actor.
Yeah. When this weasel is basically he's tattling. It's like, Emotep, they're over here, they're getting away. as they're driving away, Rick is shouting, "You're going to get yours, Benny." Benny's like, "Oh yeah, I've never heard that before. How original!
Yeah.
I'm being threatened." Pretty funny.
Yep. So they're driving through like all these townspeople, like more townspeople that are zombified Emotep followers. The last remaining American falls off the car and gets got by Emotep. Uh, Eventually, everyone's back is against the wall, literally. Also, the Magi came back, the head Magi and the professor.
Yeah,
I kind of don't remember where we picked them up.
they were they were all together when Evie was reading that.
Reason thing. Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
so
Yeah.
they all escaped in the car together.
Sure. So Evie realizes that their way out of this is for her to go with Emotep because she's the one that he's going to use to bring Moon back. She also points out that, like, they still have some time because they have to get all the way back to Hamunaptra and, like, do the ritual and everything. So smart thinking, but also this dialogue that I don't know if I've really noticed before. It starts with Evie asking Rick if he has any bright ideas this time to get out of this, and he's like, I'm thinking." Like,
Yeah,
they're in this, like, dire situation. He's like, "I'm trying to think of something." But she says, "If he turns me into a mummy, you're the first one I'm coming after." And then this Magi going along with Evie's plan, I feel like his dialogue is so like, his dialogue could be like movie taglines half the
yes,
time
yeah,
because he's like, "Live today, fight tomorrow," like saying, "Let Evie go with them, buy all of us some time," you know? And there's that later scene toward the end where he's like, "Save the girl, kill the creature." I'm like, literally, your lines could be like movie posters.
yeah,
But then when Evelyn does walk away with Emotep and Rick says, like, "I'll be seeing you again," and points his torch at Emotep, great shot because I feel like not everyone would have allowed this torch to, like, cover Brendan Fraser's face the way it does when he, like,
yeah.
points it.
It is a fairly
Um,
tight shot.
Also, poor Evie's boss tries to fight off the horde so they can all get away.
Yeah, so obviously Emotep breaks his promise, which is like, if you come with me, I'll spare your friends. Then he says, "Oh, kidding, kill them all." And so they all
Yep.
jump into the sewer, I guess,
Yeah.
and they try to get the curator to go with them. And he's like, "Just go, whatever." And he's like swinging the sword and he's taking out some zombies or whatever they are.
Mhm.
And, pretty badass way for this kind of stuffy old man to go out, or, so we thought him up until this point.
Yeah, yeah. So this is when we get to Rick approaching that, like, old fighter pilot who's, like, we kind of met him at the bar earlier, but he just does
Yeah.
not like that he's retired and doesn't have a battle to fight and everything.
Yes.
So they go find him and they're kind of explaining everything. When they fly out to Hamunaptra to try to catch up with Evie and the mummy and everything, Rick and the pilot are in seats, and then the Magi guy and Jonathan are just hanging onto the airplane wings.
Yeah, I think they're like strapped
Like,
in, but
strapped, but
but
still,
they're
it was like,
just there's no room for them. We've got a little two-seater. What else they
yeah,
gonna do, I guess?
I guess, yeah. This is so funny to me because you see Jonathan just, like, obviously terrified, which, like, rightfully so, I would be, but he's just screaming and hollering, and then the Magi dude is just, like, having the best time. Like, he has a big smile on his face, he's like, "This is great."
Yeah, Brendan Fraser's trying to talk to either of them, and it's
Mhm.
like, "How you doing?" He's like, "How do you think I'm doing?" I was like,
Yeah,
"Yeah." I probably wouldn't have even acknowledged them. I would have like, let them be mad.
yeah,
But yeah, this pilot guy's hilarious.
yeah,
Before they take off and they meet him in the desert, they're trying to convince him for his help, and the way Rick lays it out is, I think, basically the plot of the last third of the movie. He's like, "We got to save the damsel in distress, stop the bad guy, save the world," like almost verbatim. And Winston, which is the pilot, he's like, "Is it dangerous?" And Jonathan explains to him that like everyone that's been helping him or helping them so far has died along the way. And he's like, great, let's do it then, chaps, or whatever. And he's like
Yeah.
ready to die for a good cause, or just maybe wants to feel some danger again.
Yeah, he needs to feel alive again, and this is how he does it. So the Emotep starts this like sandstorm to try to crash the plane. And even during all this, the pilot is in like the best mood and he yells, "Here I come, laddies."
Yeah, he's just ready to go, man.
Yeah. And then unfortunately, when they crash land, he does end up dying, actually, which is, bittersweet. Also, I always thought it was so convenient that they managed to land the plane right in that quicksand that like just takes the middle part of the plane down with it. So it's like, oh, he's conveniently getting a burial and they don't have to just like leave him. So,
Yeah. When the sandstorm is happening that Emotep is controlling, Evie distracts him by kissing him and turning him around or whatever. And that's, they end up crashing, but not getting crashed by him. So either, I guess she made it a little bit better.
mhm.
But it's cool because we had just mentioned the trick of the Texas switch when we were talking about speed. And you see it here, kind of. You see this plane go behind a big sand dune, and there's an explosion. Obviously, they're not going to blow up a real plane. But I meant to mention this earlier. After they roughen up Benny a little bit and get some questions out of him, he jumps out a window and like
Oh,
he
yeah.
hits like the classic hit the awning of something and bounce off and whatever. Well, that was clearly like the stunt guy jumping out the window because the camera's looking up at the building. Benny, quotations, the stunt guy jumps out the window, falls off camera. The actor pops up in the foreground, like shakes it off and runs away. And I was like, oh, we get two of those in this movie. It's kind of funny.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. He's so much in the foreground when he pops up. I remember that shot. So Rick, Jonathan, and the Magi dude are in the tomb. Jonathan picks up that scarab from the wall because he's like, oh, look at this treasure.
Right.
Has he not seen enough at this point to like, and also like, you don't think this looks like the flesh eating beetles you've literally already seen?
Yeah. This is where I was a little confused too. Now, I'm going to just give it the benefit of the doubt that he didn't see the bejeweled ones being picked off the wall and turning into a real life beetle.
Right.
But to your point, did you not see enough? I would stay away from any and all treasure because clearly everything's got a curse on it, whether it looks like a bug or a book or a jar full of Orions, whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, and anything could be a booby trap too. I don't know.
Right.
I was just surprised that someone has not learned his lesson at this point. And then of course, comes to life, crawls into his arm or whatever, and he's yelling at Rick, "Do something." And then Rick pulls out a knife. He's like, "Not that."
Yeah. And he just kind of
It's
like
like, what else?
pops it out.
Again, no blood.
No blood.
Easy peasy.
I just realized that the only time we see the under the skin crawling towards your brain bug gets taken off the wall. The rest just kind of crawl over you and eat you, it seems like. I wonder if they're a different species or something.
That's a good point.
I just thought of that because this is the only second time we see
Mm,
it, but we see lots of the scarabs and they just like mow people over.
yeah.
I have another question.
Yes.
Where'd the other Magi's go? Why is it just this guy, this Ardith Bay guy?
Yeah, I was wondering that too. I guess I just assumed it was because, like, I mean, he's the one who joins the group because they were all in the library or museum or whatever together and they escaped together, right? But you would think, yeah, the rest of them are in the desert and could come in as backup.
Yeah, because now we see Emotep's back, and can we get a little help here, please?
Yeah. This is literally what they've been waiting for, like training for their whole lives.
Right, and they're nowhere to be found. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
this Winston guy is like, let's go.
Yeah. Good old Winston. We cut to Evelyn. She's tied down to a slab of rock and we see her waking up on this slab. I don't know what's happened to her exactly in the meantime, but She wakes up, you just see her, and
Yeah.
then there's a rat crawling on her. We follow the rat over next to Evelyn, and that's how we see the corpse of Moon is next to her now. And I love this reveal. I love how they do it. And we're following like Evelyn turning her head, following the rat. And then like she starts screaming because this corpse is right next to her, which like rightfully so.
Right.
When we get back to Jonathan and Rick, they're looking for a statue of Horace, from what I understand, like for, whatever the other book is.
Yeah.
I love how Jonathan's just like, hello, Horace, old boy. Just this nice nod to he's ridiculous and he's greedy, maybe not as much as someone like Benny, but then he also had this very like academic upbringing. Hello, exactly what I'm looking for because I know my ancient Egypt.
Right. Yeah.
This is when I guess the more zombie like mummies get brought back. Imhotep brings them back to like try to take care of, our heroes coming to save Evelyn. This is when the Magi kind of sacrifices himself to let Jonathan and Rick keep going. This is when he does the
Uh,
save the girl, kill the creature.
yeah. The tagline.
Yep, the tagline. I don't know. I'm questioning the logic here a little bit because, like, if anyone here could be useful in terms of knowledge, you would think it'd be that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I,
I
I
don't
don't
know.
I don't know.
But I did like how they found this way to include the like old school looking mummies, so to speak,
Yeah.
because this still worked for me. Like it was, I think because they were so relentless
Yes.
and they were maybe not fast, but
They weren't
it reminded me
slow.
of, yeah, they weren't exactly, they weren't like this slow lumbering thing either. And this is when I could really see if George Romero had been involved because they were so zombie-like. It made me think of
Yeah.
zombie movies when a horde is closing in on the characters, and, like, they just keep going even if you, like, chop them in half. You just have to get them, like, I don't know, taken apart tiny enough pieces that they're not gonna keep coming after you.
Yeah. So then the shuffling ones, the ones that are chasing them, these are people in costume and prosthetics and whatnot. I thought they looked pretty
Mhm,
good.
mhm.
After our Magi dude, Majude, put them together. After, after our Magi guy, which is also funny. Damn it, this guy, Mr. Bay. After Mr. Bay sacrifices himself, they find Evelyn and they go to free her. Jonathan's running around trying to read from the book, and Rick, of course, is being the hero and chopping up these zombies. And now we're getting like computer generated ones because I think
Mm,
Fraser's just literally swinging this sword around, and they're just adding in these zombies here and there, and they don't look horrible. There's a funny moment where he chops off one of the mummy's zombies' heads, and he's like juggling it literally, and Brendan Fraser
yeah,
like swings it like a home run baseball bat. Uh,
mhm.
Again, silly, fun, unnecessary, but silly and fun.
Yeah. So they're all in a circle, like, surrounding the slab that Evie is still attached to because he's trying to free her. I was getting Jason and the Argonaut vibes from this big time,
Mm,
which I don't
yes.
think I've ever noticed before. Maybe I've just never watched this scene so closely, but I couldn't help thinking of that, especially because they had one of the people at one of the iterations had mentioned that too.
Yeah.
But somewhere in between all this, Moon is at least woken up. She's not like fully brought back to life, I guess, yet, because she's still a mummy. She's not like
Yeah.
regenerated like Imhotep is. But the close up of her shrieking herself awake, that gets me every time. Like, that is so creepy to me.
Yeah. It's pretty good. Yeah. Because I think Emotep does the beginning of the spell, and you see like her soul kind of coming from that fountain black water situation and go into the mummy.
Hmm.
And then they get distracted, obviously, with Rick and Jonathan. Jonathan also while trying to save them by reading things from the book, wake up. He wakes up like these guards. Like these are the
Yeah.
first ones are kind of bumbling and scary, but like kind of taken care of. Now there's these dudes
Mhm.
with these huge scythes and swords that can jump far
Mhm.
and run far and creepily crawl on
Yeah.
ceilings and walls.
I thought this was so funny though, because first of all, Jonathan bumbles into the scene being like, Evie, I got the book. Like right as Emotep's gonna like stab her. So he like accidentally stops his sister from being sacrificed by just being like this yelling like idiot. And then so he interrupts the ceremony, like I said, like a big dummy, and then he reads whatever half of the thing to awaken these guards, and you see a close-up of Emotep with this facial expression like, this stupid Englishman is going to make everything so much easier for me because he just awoke this army that's going to attack him, basically.
Yeah,
And so Evie tells him to finish reading the whole inscription, and then he can control then Jonathan can control these newly awakened, like, army soldier mummies,
right.
like you said, with huge swords. But at this point, Evie is like running for her life from Anaxuna Moon, who's still in mummy form. I think I find her so creepy because like most of her face is still all bandaged. You just see her mouth and she's just shrieking
Shrieking.
constantly, coming after Evie with like a dagger
Yeah,
or
she's
something. I
got
don't
that
even
like
remember.
sacrificial dagger thing.
Yes. Okay. So while Evie is literally fighting for her life, Jonathan's like, how do I say this word? She's like shouting from across the room, like how to pronounce things.
Yeah, what a buffoon.
Yep. Evie's doing a lot of heavy lifting here. At
I,
this point is when Jonathan finally turns it around, gets them under his control, and then they kill Moon again.
yes. So first off, I want to say that the part of the sequence where they just show Evie and her fleeing from this mummy, the way they do that
Hmm.
is pretty cool, pretty creepy. She's basically like kind of running through, I don't know, other coffins and treasure, and it's like a maze. And a lot of times we're getting first person point of view when she comes around the corner and like there's a screeching mummy there with a knife, and it's, contrast to Rick in wide shots fighting these guys with swords. So we got sword play, and then like Jonathan just hiding in the corner trying to it's just these three heroes, three different choices of how to present them, which is very
Hmm.
fun. But yeah, they kill his bride to be again. And the messed up part is he, again, as we saw in the very beginning, just sees her die via shadow on the wall. Like, because the first time she tells him to leave, only you can bring me back. And then he
Hmm.
turns and she kills herself, but he sees that through the shadows. And then now he just sees her stabbed and poked and prodded for like all these different armored zombies, mummies, things.
Yeah, I keep wanting to call them zombies too, and that's not exactly right. Yeah. Yep. So poor Emetep, he's like, what the fuck again? And then comes after Jonathan.
Because he has the
Be-
book.
yes. At some point, though, he ends up just throwing Rick around instead. I don't know
So
how we get to that.
he's attacking Jonathan, and Rick cuts off his arm. And so now he goes after Rick.
Mhm.
But like, it's a really funny scene to me, like how they play it off. So they cut off his arm. They show a shot of a fake arm, obviously, in the sand. And then
Mhm.
they go back to, and then he like, backhands Rick, and Rick goes flying. And so the next shot of Emotep is like a tracking shot following him as he's going towards Rick. And he just like is doing this thing with his arm. It looks like he's like screwing it back on. He's just like kind of moving
Mhm.
at the elbow back and forth. But then like you see a red line where the cut would have been. And so, yeah, then he says like, all right, keep him busy. 'Cause he's trying to finish this. Oh, he's doing, I don't know, call it a curse or incantation, but basically what he's trying to do is get the land of the dead to come take his soul away to make him mortal. But that's when he's like, keep him
Right.
busy. And then the next cut is like Brendan Fraser flying through the air into a wall. It's like,
Yeah.
this poor guy
Yeah. Yeah.
getting his ass beat.
Um,
That's his only job is to be a distraction.
oh, I did have a note too that this is like the only scene where I really feel like Imhotep has this like G-string costume that the actor kept talking about because like, he's running around and fighting people like his robe has come off at this point. I don't know. I still wasn't seeing all this as quite as revealing as what the actors were making it sound like, but I think they're more covered up. It's just like a lot of the fabric is see-through. But
Sure.
also, like, because 'cause they're not really standing still, it's not like you're really noticing it like that. I don't know.
No, and most of his shots are waist up anyway. So he's
That
just
too, yeah.
shirtless plus like whatever gauntlets he's wearing or whatever.
Yeah. The incantation, whatever, is finished. I did kinda like how this wraps up, even though I understand this chariot coming from the underworld looks kinda cheesy. They take his soul away or whatever, and Rick says something like, "I thought you said he was gonna die now," and he ends up basically walking into Rick's whatever Rick is holding, a sword or something,
Or
and they're like, "Oh, well, he's mortal." So that's what does it. But so we see him very dramatically, like, decompose before our eyes, whatever. Apparently, this whole time, Benny's just been, like, bagging up treasure, like, loading these
yeah.
camels up with treasure, which, like, I kinda forgot about that bit.
Yeah. I kind of forgot about
Um,
Benny.
yeah, because he's not here while all this is going down. What triggers this whole temple to collapse on itself? Is it because the mummy is gone? Like, the magic's gone?
I think so. I don't really. It's like the curse and the thing at the beginning. It's like I'm buying it. I'm here. I'm not thinking too hard. But I think that's what it
Sure.
is. I think kind of like to your point about Aladdin. It's like, oh, okay, well, you took the wrong treasure, and now we're just gonna encapsulate you here for ever and ever. Also, read how
Yeah.
Benny's back inside now, but
I think it was just getting more
more treasure.
treasure,
But then
but yeah,
Magi guy shows back up. Where did he? How did he not die? Rick threw dynamite at him and blew a hole in the wall, and he also was fighting 10 zombies and
magic.
magic.
But yeah, this last scene with Benny where he's, like, trapped in the temple now because the temple's kind of all collapsed in on itself, but there are some pockets of, rooms that he's in one of these rooms that didn't fully collapse. Yeah, very much like Cave of Wonders, Aladdin vibes. Did think it was nice of Rick to at least try to save Benny after everything.
Yeah,
But yeah, it very much gave me the vibes of like, oh, he was taking the treasure and now he's trapped in the Cave of Wonders forever.
yeah.
Yep.
Well, maybe not
Uh,
forever. I don't know how long he's gonna last.
well, yeah, the scarabs are there. I love this bit where we have a close up on the three heroes that survived, like Jonathan, Rick, and Evelyn, and the magi guy comes up from behind Jonathan and just puts a hand on his shoulder and it scares everyone, especially Jonathan. And the way he's like, "Oh, thank you very much for doing that to me."
Yeah,
While all this was going on, while everything was like falling apart too, they're also having to actively stop Jonathan from grabbing any treasure, which is like again, have you not seen enough?
yes.
So after the Magi's like, "Good job. Hope I never see you again."
Yeah.
uh,
Don't come to my desert anymore, please.
right? Jonathan says, "Well, I guess we go home empty-handed again." And Rick looks at Evelyn and says, "I wouldn't say that."
Swoon. Yes, yes, yes.
Swoon. That's pretty much our last shot. Like they kiss and then they like ride away on their camel.
Yeah, happy ending. World was saved. Damsel was
Oh, and
saved.
they have some gold they're taking home with them unbeknownst to them. Benny loaded up their camels for them.
Oh yeah,
There's that
that's right.
last little like shot. Okay. So, any other thoughts before I get into the rest here?
Ugh, no. Oh, actually, I have one thought. As you were
Mm.
earlier talking about Evelyn and Booksmart and the brains of the operation, and I was talking about Rick and kind of his stubbornness and toughness and this and that. And obviously, so there's different appeals to get more of a bigger audience, especially with that PG-13 rating. But then sitting here thinking about it, and we've made the comparisons to Aladdin and Indiana Jones, obviously, but they really kind of took the character of Indiana Jones and like separated him to make these two characters because he is heroic and brave and strong, but he is also the book smart, you know, person leading, giving all the information to the audience. It's like they took him and kind of divided
Oh, yeah.
to two characters.
It's a good point. I honestly, like, never thought about Indiana Jones that much when I would rewatch this. Now, going through the research and everything, it was unavoidable. I don't know how it never struck a chord with me there, but yeah, now I just wanna rewatch Indiana Jones.
Hmm.
All right. So, the budget for The Mummy was okay, apparently this figure says 80,000,000, 60 to 80 based on things I've seen in interviews and things I've seen reported. Either way, it grossed 420,000,000 worldwide.
That is a lot of Campbell treasure. Yeah.
Yeah. So everyone's bets paid off, Universal upping the budget and all that. Like, good job all around, everybody. Its opening weekend was the highest non holiday May opening and the ninth biggest opening of all time.
Wow.
However, a few weeks later, that record was wiped out by The Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
It was the sixth highest grossing film of 1999, which is still pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Critics were really favorable about it, saying that they thought the movie was a lot of fun, even though, like, a lot of them were a little more unkind about the comparisons to things like Indiana Jones, like things that have come before. For us, I feel like we see it as inspiration or whatever, and I think
Yeah.
they were a little more like, maybe it's a ripoff. But they kept saying it's like what a summer movie should be. It's fun, it's funny, like you have the romance aspect, even if the story and the how and why didn't always hold up, which obviously we have touched on, but that's fine. But also, I think, especially a movie like this, where it's like there's enough there to for me to go with it. Like, I'm not saying it's believable as in this could really happen, but like I'm in the world of the story. I'm going with what they're giving me, but also no one's like coming here for actual like historical accuracy or whatever.
No, no, no. I'm just here for a good time.
It was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Sound.
All the screeching.
Yeah, all the screeching. Forgot about that. And I mean, obviously, we've touched a bit on like memes and articles about how much it still resonates with our generation who grew up watching it. There's so many articles that popped up that are like, I guess you could say, love letters to how great this movie is, how nostalgic this movie is. One of the best summer movies of the 90s, one of the best action adventures of the 90s, one of the best Brendan Fraser movies. There's so much love for this movie out there. Like I said, specifically from our generation, people talking about how good looking the entire cast is.
Right. Yeah.
I think for me, this was my introduction to Rachel Weisz as an actress. And
Yeah.
like I've always like followed her career ever since. Like she's one of my favorite actresses. I kind of forgot that Brendan Fraser had already done a lot of his more kid-friendly movies before this. Because that's when he got on my radar, when he started doing like George of the Jungle and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. He had a little string of, like you said, more child friendly movies.
Yeah. So I found this quote from Brendan Fraser where he said, referring to this movie, "It's as familiar to some people as the furniture in their house. That's nice. I like that."
That is nice. Yeah.
And he does talk about this as being like one of his favorite roles, one of his favorite movies that he was ever involved in.
That's cool. Oh, he must have liked the role so much that he came back.
All right, tell us about our sequels.
All right. So, May 1st, 2001, The Mummy Returns, direct sequel. But The Mummy is not the only one returning. We get writer director Stephen Sommers, Brendan Fraser, Rachel Weisz, Jonathan, the brother, returns. The Magi guy, Emotep, Anox, and the Moon. They all come back. Everyone comes back. I've seen this before, and I actually rewatched it for this just because I had it on. It played right after The Mummy. I was like, I'll finish my notes and watch this. And I still don't remember why the actress is in the modern time for the movie, whatever 20s is. I think she might have been a reincarnation of herself, but she still needs to get the soul into her to be fully, I don't know, whole. I don't, I wasn't fully paying attention to that part. It was very confusing. I'm like, aren't you like dead still again, the second time? Doesn't matter.
Is this the one where they're in London
Yes.
and like they're on a double decker bus maybe and get attacked by zombies? Is that or
Yep.
mummies?
Mummy zombies.
Yeah. Okay, so like cuz I know I've seen this, but it's been a really long time.
Yeah. Before this, it was a one and done for me. It was okay. I saw it in theaters, I believe, with two of my friends, and is also The Rock's first feature film. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And we're big wrestling fans. Let's go see that. He's not much in the movie, which is fine. I don't know if you talked about that. We did talk a little bit about some of the effects in The Mummy 1999 was meh. Some were good, some were okay. Well, if you don't remember this movie that much, maybe you blocked out the special effects because at the end, when The Rock is the Scorpion King, but is a creature, it looks so bad. So bad. You have The Rock, just let him be a strong zombie. I don't understand why he has to be this giant CGI creature.
Yeah, I don't remember this part. Like I remember that this is when we're introduced to the Scorpion King. That's his name, right? Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and revisit this now. I want to see.
Well, let me refresh your memory a little bit here. Let's see if that's
Okay.
we're going to have the same thought process after all this. So the very beginning, it's the same thing as the last movie and the next movie. We have this little intro of something going on in the past. And from what I understand, this was 2,000 years before Emotep, which seems ridiculous, but whatever. This is where we're getting introduced to the Scorpion King. He basically is taking his army and trying to win battle after battle to take over the world. He loses this one big battle and he gets banished into the desert. One by one, his people die. And before he dies, he makes a deal with Anubis. So, curses upon curses, and he can come back eventually and lead this army, the army of the dead. So then we jump to 1933, and of course, Rick and Evie are in the tomb, and they're fiddling with his shit, and they awaken him. Oh, and their son Alex is also with them, because, that seems safe.
Have we not learned anything?
No. Evie has some sort of visions. She can see into the past, and she doesn't know why. Later, we find out that she is like a descendant or whatever of, I think, the Pharaoh's daughter. I don't know. It's weird. They keep doing these flashbacks in the past because Evie can see them.
I vaguely remember this part of the movie now.
I think it was an excuse to get Rachel Weisz to like also be almost naked and wear gold paint. They have like a fight scene, her and the other actress, and
Okay,
pretty cool
I
fight scene.
remember this.
Yeah,
Yes. Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
But
Body paint's back.
body paint's back, full force. New actress. Oh, did I mentioned their son Alex has a really bad British accent. They stay in England, obviously, too. So I get it. I
Yeah.
get it. It sounded off coming from this kid. And I'm bringing it up now because I'm going to bring it up again in the next movie. So remember that. They take home the Rock's bracelet, and somehow Alex puts it on, and this like gives you visions so you can see where the oasis was where he died and made his deal, and you can go there and you could, control the army of the dead, whatever. Well, of course, he gets kidnapped by the bad guys. Another kind of cult situation. They want to resurrect Emotep again because they think he's the only one that could stop the Scorpion King. And once you stop the Scorpion King, you can control the army of the dead. So just, more, more crazy, powerful mummies than we need. But we also want to bring back these actors. So we go through different desert locations, and Alex keeps leaving clues to his parents how to find him, where to go next. And eventually they get to the oasis. There's some like kind of skeleton pygmy creatures that are taking the bad guys out one at a time. They also have to get Alex to the temple on the fourth, fifth, whatever day before the sun rises, or he will die. So they just barely make it. Imhotep kills Evie. They bring her back with the Book of the Dead or the Living. I can't remember which one. And then the Scorpion King shows up. There's like a three-way battle between him, Rick, and Imhotep, because everyone wants to control this army. Good guys end up winning. Everyone kind of crumbles back into the ground. Yeah, and that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Does Evie just die?
They bring her back. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was going to say the character at least is in the third movie. So
Yeah. Now she comes back stronger than ever, saves the day.
moving on.
Moving on. I forgot this existed. Very briefly, there was The Mummy, the animated series, which it premiered on the WB network in 01. Actually, I think it was September, so not far after this movie comes out, actually. Same year. Ran for 2 seasons. Set in 1938.
Yeah, I did not remember this at all.
No, I don't know if I've watched it. I just know, reading about it, I'm like, oh yeah, I think I remember seeing something. But there's also like the same time, wasn't there like The Mask had an animated show, Ace Ventura had an animated show, all these weird like movies for our generation
Yeah.
/ age group had these cartoons come up kind of after the fact. We've kind of moved on past the films. Like, yeah, I don't care about these cartoons.
That's a good point. Yes. I guess the only thing I can really think of right now is Beetlejuice, but yeah.
That was great. And also was out when we were kids, not after the fact.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I don't know if it's to make up for the fact that half the screen time The Rock had in The Mummy Returns was horrible CGI, but they said, hey, you know what? This Rock guy looks pretty cool in the desert without a shirt on. Let's give him his own movie. So they do. We have The
Like
Scorpion
you do.
King in April of 2002. Stephen Sommers returns as one of the writers. We get Chuck Russell as a director. He also did The Mask and Eraser. I think I saw this one in theaters. I feel like I remember liking it more than The Mummy Returns. It was just more straightforward, more action than action adventure, but just the setting was 3,000 years in the past, and it's just kind of an art, almost like think of like Troy, like an army movie, but just a different setting. So sword
Okay.
fighting and shit like that. So basically, what it boils down to is a desert warrior rises up against the evil army that is destroying his homeland. He captures the enemy's key sorcerer, takes her deep into the desert, and prepares for a final showdown. I wrote somehow this takes place 5,001. It's very specifically 5,001 years before the first 2 films. So we keep going further and further back. So like a prequel spinoff, I suppose.
I was just going to say that's a very specific number.
The other thing I remember about this movie was the soundtrack, specifically Godsmack's I Stand Alone. That song was used in the damn trailers, the TV spots. It happens 5,001 years before 1923, but apparently Godsmack's alive and kicking back then. I looked up the soundtrack, and there's a bunch of new metal and radio rock, like all over it. It was like
Yeah, that makes sense.
a time capsule of a soundtrack to this movie about ancient Egypt.
Forgot about Godsmack.
All right. Next on the timeline, back to the main trilogy here. This is The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. This is 2008. Up until last night, I've never seen this movie before.
I don't know if no, I did see this one. I did. I don't remember anything about it, but I remember Maria Bello being Evelyn now.
Yes. I think that by 2008, I didn't know if I cared about a Mummy sequel. Also, don't care even more so that they changed the actress. But apparently, this whole series is on streaming. So it's like, you watch this movie, you want to watch this one? Like, fuck it. I got to take some more notes.
It's like a mummy playlist for you.
There's the Tom Cruise one's on there. I think the scary
Yeah,
one's
I
on there.
noticed.
1951 popped up. Something about King Tut, some sort of document. I'm like, they like, oh great, now I've
They were
watched.
like, "You love mummies? Here you go."
This is like basically they're curating a playlist on my streaming service that would have been perfect for you in high school.
Yeah. Yeah, I did notice that they have, like, literally everything except the Boris Karloff one, because
Yeah,
that was I wanted to, like, check that out just to so I could see more of the similarities,
same.
and I was like, "Of course, there's, like, every single mummy movie in existence except that one."
Yep. So we already mentioned change the actress. Obviously, if you don't know, Brendan Fraser returns. We get a new director, Rob Cohen. He did Dragonheart and the first Fast and the Furious. Who knew? So we spend some of our money and we get Mr. Jet Li and Michelle Yeoh. The very beginning, again, we go back in the past to get the history of this person who we're going to mummify and come back and kill us. Very much going from action adventure to more like ancient kung fu movie. So the opening sequence was kind of cool. We see Jet Li doing Jet Li stuff. I'm okay with this. Oh, and Jonathan returns too. He owns a bar in Shanghai for some reason, or a
Of
club.
course he does.
Yeah.
Did you actually say that Maria Bello replaces Rachel Weisz?
No, you did.
Oh, okay. All right.
So Alex is now older, a young man. He does his own digs, and now he has an American accent. Kind of like,
Really?
yeah, kind of like shittily New York, somewhere, not specifically a borough, but like kind of like, you kind of sound like you're like maybe just outside of New York City, but you're living and digging in Shanghai and your family's from England. I don't, yeah, he changes his accents. I don't know. I don't know.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So, two retired explorers travel to 1946 Shanghai to return a mystic relic. They find their son has unearthed a cursed terracotta emperor, sparking a race to a Himalayan paradise before an invincible army rises to enslave humanity. It's hard not to say Himalayan and not laugh because I forgot there are these fucking stupid Yetis in this movie. There's like these giant CGI monkey creatures that are attacking them at the temple.
My God.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I haven't seen this because I don't remember that. Oh my God. There are Yetis?
Yes. Yes, there are.
All right.
Apparently, if Jet Li gets to the temple, he gets more powerful and he could transform to creatures. He just has that power. At one point, he becomes a three-headed dragon. And then at another point, I feel like he looks like he should be in Where the Wild Things Are. I just can't describe what he looks like. This furry creature with big claws and horns, and I have no idea what this is. It's not done well.
I mean, it doesn't sound like any of it's done well, but
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Um,
I just like your note. Wow, this was a long movie.
oh yeah. Yeah. It's probably felt longer than what it was. They make jokes that these guys are mummy experts now. Evie seems to be more hungry for saving the world adventures where Rick just wants to like not put their lives in the line all the time, which is weird. She's like, oh, I'm just a boring housewife now that has this cool job where I can do whatever I want with these old ancient relic books, but I need more. And she like can sword fight, stuff like that. I don't know.
That's weird.
Mm-hmm. So that was that. Pretty sure they're going to erase this from canon when they come out with the fourth one. But
Oh, yeah.
it's because they didn't have Rachel playing Evie. But we're not
Yeah.
there yet. Also in 2008, The Scorpion King 2, Rise of a Warrior. This is a prequel and direct-to-video film, so no The Rock, but part of the cast is UFC fighter Randy Couture as the villain. Neat. Okay, well then in 2012, The Scorpion King 3, Battle for
What?
Redemption. Again, direct-to-video. No The Rock. But we do have Ron Perlman and Billy Zane and Dave Bautista and Kimbo Slice all in the cast.
Okay.
So,
It's fine.
fun character actor, Billy Zane, another wrestler, and another UFC guy. So they basically want like big burly men to be in the desert.
Sure.
This one takes place after the first spin-off film, so more of a direct sequel than a prequel. Yeah, that's all I got there. We're not done. 2015, The Scorpion King 4, Quest for Power. Again, you got it, direct to video.
Okay.
This is directed by Mike Elliott, who apparently has over 100 films under his belt, mostly direct to video sequels.
I mean, at least he's getting paid. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not doing it. I'm not getting movie money, so I can't judge there.
Mhm.
We have in this film Lou Ferrigno, the Hulk. Yeah, another UFC guy, Royce Gracie, Eve Torres, who did WWE and a little mixed martial artist, and the guy that replaced The Rock in the previous movie is also in this movie. So we've had a prequel, Scorpion King, The Rock as a Scorpion King, and this other dude who I didn't recognize his name, so I didn't put it down. Finally, in 2018, we get the Scorpion King Book of Souls. Direct to video. This is our fourth replacement of the Scorpion King. There's a new actor. As of November 2020, a reboot of Scorpion King was announced with Dwayne The Rock Johnson to produce. Would take place in modern times or the 31st century. Why? Who knows?
What?
That's the
That,
only tidbit I could really find, and I really felt like this is long enough. I didn't want to do any more digging.
yeah, that's fine. This has been enough. There's so many of
There's
these.
so many. And like all these Scorpion Kings, as funny and silly as it are to talk about, it just kind of showed the movie magic that the Mummy itself had, even though it's from the sequel, but we somehow like wanted to live in this Scorpion King world. By we, I don't know who I'm referring to.
I was
Someone
like,
out
did
there.
we?
Yeah, I did not. I will end on a good note. If some of us who don't know, even though I've kind of spoiled it, The Mummy 4 is in works and is set to release. I've read some things in October 2027 or just generically 2027. But all three return. Rick, Evie, and Jonathan, all played by the original actors we know and love, are coming back. So it seems. And I think they're erasing all of this from our minds. I think it's just going to be a sequel to their sequel. So The Mummy, Mummy Returns, and The Mummy 4 will be their trilogy.
Okay. That was so much.
It was
Like,
so much.
so much more than I expected. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I kind of forgot that the Scorpion King launched its whole own thing.
I don't think I knew. I knew there was a Scorpion King, and I think I knew about the prequel or knew there was another movie that existed. But when I was doing this, I was like, I kind of don't want to include all these because, again, it's not really the Mummy, sequel.
Yeah.
But the fact that every time I was on Wikipedia or IMDb, I'm like, oh my God, there's another one. Oh my God, there's another one. I'm like, I have to tell Rachel about all of these. There's like
Well,
5 of
thank
these
you.
movies. Jesus.
Yeah. So did the original The Mummy, 1999's The Mummy, hold up for you?
In short, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, of course it did. If you couldn't tell by the excitement in my voice and the itching to talk about it. Yeah, it's fun to watch anytime I watch it. It's got action, it's got comedy, some spoopy notes, nothing too bad, but some shock value, some scary moments, romance, and bisexual awakening, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
For some,
Yeah.
not for all, but I missed that boat, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I love this movie for all the reasons you have mentioned. Like like you said, if you couldn't tell from our discussion, yeah, definitely holds up for me. I have no more to say because this is so long.
Please join us next year when Joe is finally done editing The Mummy 1999.
I'm so sorry. All right. We would love to hear your thoughts on The Mummy, as well as your own favorite summer movies. You can find us on Instagram at Back Through the Lens Pod and on Facebook at Back Through the Lens. You can also email us at backthroughthelenspodcast@gmail.com. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please leave us a rating and review. It's the best way to support our show. And you can now watch us on YouTube at Lucky Card Productions. We'll link everything in our show notes.
If you enjoyed our show today, please give us a like and follow for updates on new and future episodes. Our show is produced by our host, Rachel Campbell, and myself, Joe Sielmick, with additional help and support from Peter Telep of LPB Productions. Peter, Rachel, and I are also the executive producers. Our awesome logo is brought to you by Tom Fracci, and our wonderful theme song is by Matt Tarek. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more trips into our movie watching past on Back Through the Lens.
Don't talk about anything that's not a mummy.
Don't even think about it. Got
Okay.
a 20-page thesis we have to read. Imhotep's sarcophagus. Oh my God, Joe. Sarcophagus. Oh my God.
Why
Asparagus.
don't you say...
All right. Glad we're already wasting time. Go, Joe.
My neighbors came over to have some wine last night. I was like rewatching parts of the movie, and one of them showed up and she's like, "Are you watching The Mummy?" I was like, "Yes, I am."
That's not the correct answer. Your answer should have been, fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah. Time to rewatch it again. Watch it even more closely.
No, don't do that.
No, don't do that.